Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to the LAN, the consoles, where they battle out. It's incredible to see the type of experience we've already gathered in the console scene throughout the events we've had since, I guess, DreamHack
Yeah,
Valencia.
that was the first one.
And now, a DreamHack Valencia's already passed. We haven't had that one yet. We've done these at the studio, so it's been really exciting to see them grow. And we can tell the competition, Nick. And of course, I'm joined here by Hi-Riz Pretty Hair, who is casting the first set. Up next, we have Elevate versus Flashpoint. So the battle of PS4, EU, and NA. What's your overall thoughts on this one?
Well, you've got Flashpoint, right? They're going to be the returning champions. They're also the first European team to ever win one of these console wars. That was back in the spring, and they finally, if you follow PC, it's sort of like when NA finally won a major tournament. Right now, they get that respect. Now they get that love, and I think they're able to maybe bring themselves as a contender now, and have to be respected. They have to be more studied, I think, and overall not slept on.
Now, if you take Flashpoint's achievements and this historic thing, does that mean they're more likely to win this time, to double up? Does this mean that there's more of a target on their back, and it's going to be a little harder?
Well, they don't have Swiper yet again, so it will be the boys, Legacy, Prosper, Storm, Avatar, only Op B. They're bringing it home this time for Flashpoint. They've held it down before, right? And I don't see why they can't do it again.
Well, I think that's also what a lot of these teams are thinking, and spending a little bit of time earlier on with Shu, Cutie Shu on Elevate. He says that it's been the most even it's been possible to be here over the upcoming weeks. They've actually scrimmed Flashpoint. These are their scrim partners 4 times a week from 4 to 6. And so he says they're prepared, they feel confident, and they feel like anybody can take this one.
This is always a really interesting types of matchup when you have those scrim partners. They know each other inside and out. So it really oftentimes comes down to who executes on the day, right? No draft, I don't think that either of these teams is going to be pulling out, is going to surprise their opponents today. So you look at a team like Flashpoint and you say, well, what did they bring out last time that was so good for them? And is that still going to work? I think you've got, of course, Prosper on Leon. Yeah. You've got Legacy on Makoa. I don't see why that can't continue to be a big staple of what they win with.
Well, the interviews that we've talked to this morning are with the members of Elevate. Will they have the confidence to beat Flashpoint? Let's go ahead and listen to what they had to say.
Hi there, guys. I'm, of course, joined by Team Elevate. We've got Whoosh and Shu up here today. First and foremost, how are you both feeling about being back at LAN this summer?
I mean, we're feeling good. Missing last one definitely hurt. So we decided me and Shu, we decided that there needed to be some changes from our last roster. So, I mean, we're just glad to be back.
That's awesome to hear, you guys. And, you know, on those changes as well, obviously they've made a big impact with you guys so far, but what was the biggest hurdle that you felt you had to overcome to be able to make it back here?
Just meshing with our new teammates. You know, it was a completely new roster, so it was starting from scratch, but me and Shu have been teaming for a while, so, you know, there's still some comfortability between us, so it wasn't that hard.
That's good to hear, you guys, as well. I've got a bit of a pocket pick question to ask you about right now. I've heard rumors that there's a very scary emoji which might be making an appearance at the Paladins console LAN. We're seeing a little bit of that already. What is it about this pick on console that you feel makes her so strong?
Emoji on console, she just, when played properly, she's just really, really, really difficult to deal with. She's just a really strong pick on console right now.
Fair enough to hear. I hear that some people might be playing her a little bit like Ruckus, on account of they play everything like Ruckus. But with that in mind as well, guys, you just had the opportunity before coming here to watch the Paladins Summer Finals on the PC side of things. Do you feel that that was a useful experience that you've picked anything up from, or do you feel like you're still going to go into this with very much your own style of playing things?
I mean, the metas are kind of the same, but not almost. There's a couple picks that are a little different. Example for like the emoji, like you said. I feel like PC undervalues Moji a little bit because, I mean, they love Buck, but like Moji does the same thing as Buck. She has a heal. She doesn't have DR, but she has, you know, the magic barrier, so it's like 100%. So, I mean, she does everything. She can heal teammates, she does damage. I think she's super undervalued on PC, but other than that, it's pretty similar.
Awesome stuff. Well, only very few champions away from having seen the entire Paladins cast. Maybe we'll see that Skye, that Yin come out this LAN as well. We've already seen Victor and Vivian, after all, in the PC LAN last week. Thank you again so much, guys, and good luck out there on the battlefield.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
A lot of conversation about Moji in that one, and I think, Nick, it will be something that is heavily banned or picked in this set. Will they get the chance to do so, in your opinion?
Probably, yeah. I think at that point it has to permeate. If it's that big of a talking point and it's that easy automatic first ban in our first set of the day, I mean, I think it's no way it's overlooked over here in the PS4. We've seen a little bit of differentiation in the metas from PS4 to EU to NA, right? You have maybe that potential for the 4 different flavors to come in these console wars events, but I don't think a pick that's being first ban will be completely overlooked.
You have to take into account that not only is this a first pick, first ban consistent across these teams, but maybe it's the first time that Moji has been first pick, first ban consistently across these teams where everyone agrees. So that changes the meta, and I think that the status of where these triple DPS compositions lie, the commodity of damage, a lot more important than the commodity of what was double tank, triple tank. And so they're dealing with not only the damage meta happening, but champions out of this running. It's opening up for Furias a lot more often, and it's opening up for stuff that they're not used to necessarily dealing with being available.
Right.
It's really the first team to adapt, in my opinion.
I mean, obviously, talking a little bit about Buck and Moji being compared in that interview, I think the value, or at least why those two picks are more closely compared on console, was clear. We got to see that in that Frog Owl game. Sometimes that Buck, or that, for my money as well, the Moji I would feel runs into the same problem. They just can't turn around fast.
Yeah, exactly.
On the controller, sometimes I mean, there was a very clear moment where you're
that
seeing,
Dragon Punch feels bad, man.
You're seeing Buck and Skeppy just kind of like doing this number, and it's like I don't know, if there was potential to flick a little bit faster, maybe then you see Buck have more value, right? Maybe then you're able to see that. But I feel like, you know, the same thing could be said about Moji, right? Right when you're about to scamper or you're scampering, you need to kind of like sometimes just get that cloud down, right? You just need a 180 or directly where you are. So I'm curious to see when we do maybe finally get to see it come through, how it is played.
I'm not sure that today is going to signify surprises for a lot of these teams. And we also aren't sure that there's anything that's going to be out of the ordinary until we saw that Victor Vivian style, right? We didn't have to hedge our bets anymore. We saw that's unusual, but that's more towards the flex of a person, Cool Matt, we found out, and his champion lineup. But does that give people ideas? Does that start to say, hey, you know what? Victor here, Vivian here, maybe there is this oppression because Moji's banned, because none of these characters are banned, that we could start just being overwhelming with our damage levels in these sets.
We'll have to see. I think Victor and Vivian are actually pretty tough characters at this level to just pick up and start to run.
Yeah.
I think because they are so immobile, you have to really be hyper aware of the players that you're playing against, how they like to play, how they like to approach their fights, right? For instance, Wonderful, he gets picked on the stair side of Frog Isle. That can be avoided, and it was avoided in the later rounds, I think, by Wonderful. Just having an awareness of that, they're going to push this side with Makoa Buck. I just need to be ready to defend myself or just not fight over there at all.
Prosper Logic, a big talking point for me as well. Didn't get the MVP, but it was because of Legacy's incredible performance as a sub to go through. Otherwise, he would have. Clearly looked at as the best Leon, I think, in the console scene. Looked at as one of the best players now in the console scene. So much credence is given to him. What's his role today for this team?
I think when you look back at that spring performance, he played so much Leon, and that has become now that was like a console pick back then. That was not as big of a staple as it is across Paladins now. The innate anti-heal, the Death and Tax is legendary. That pickup, it's been so instrumental for shutting down Bucks, Inars, and Willows.
Now, Furia with the Leon, do you think that this is something teams are going to start having to say, I can't let this through? Is it the Furia and Nara combo that's I can't let this through? Is it the Furia Drogos combo that I can't let this through? What's the one that you got to give up, but the one that you won't let happen?
It's funny. When Furia came out, a lot of the console players were very vocal about her, just like, oh my God, how can they do this? I can't believe it. Wonderful. I'm holding it to him. He said if anyone loses a team fight with Inflame active, then they're trash. And I said, all right, holding you to that. And so far, he's held up his end of the bargain. He has not lost any team fights while inflamed. So I think just the value of Furia, or at least the value for me today, has been pretty high, but overall about the same. I think objectively you can say about the same as it was on PC. Sometimes she's banned, which we're seeing right here. When she's picked, it's very rarely first. So far, we've seen her go, about the 3rd, 4th, 5th slot, somewhere in the middle of the draft. Flashpoint had their first pick. Moji staying banned today.
Yeah.
Genos will be as well. So we talked a little bit about Ying, and if anyone's going to pull Ying out, it's going to be Shu.
Yeah, he absolutely is known as the Ying player, but that's on Elevate's side. So Flashpoint now with the early Buck and the Furia ban. which we'll see. If you want a champion, you let the other team ban it. You don't necessarily ban it yourself because it opens it up for you. But it's also going to open up something like the Primus of House Ico. Khan will be taken first for Elevate with Makoa. Ooh, right away.
What a front line that is. First double front line I believe we've seen today. Both games in our first set was just Inara versus Makoa, as Khan was banned out every single time, so we'll have to see what power combinations are run with him. No Bomb Kings as well. Drogos being banned out. If anyone's going to want a Blaster, they're going to have to look at the Willow or the BK.
I think Leon coming through for Flashpoint is a guaranteed boon to their team. They've got 2 now. That can be extremely deadly. Storm Avatar most likely on the Buck. Prosper Logic here onto the Leon. Now, this Vivian coming through as well. You have to say, they're watching that previous set. Yeah. Vivian, sure, I mean, a factor in console, but this early Vivian pick, is this more of just saying, hey guys, she works this tournament?
There's a lot of shielding, I think, to get through on Elevate. A lot of AoE healing as well. Looks like Elevate, they're going to start to turtle up a little bit, not just because they have Makoa. They've got the double front line. They've got
about
the Battle
as turtle as
Shout.
possible.
They've got the Grover. Cassie as well. She definitely didn't play as big of a role as I think we saw on PC.
I get it.
Oh, man, I didn't even mean to do that.
Wow.
I swear to God, I didn't mean to do that. But you're seeing this Flashpoint, clearly a different prioritization for them. They get the Buckley on the Vivian. They're clearly prioritizing their damage dealers. They want to get their carries comfortable. And Elevate, you could say the same thing. Their carries just might be their front lines. Those might be the more important picks for them.
Well, at this point, though, on a map like Fish Market, you have to consider the landscape they're fighting on. Leon, Vivian, and Buck don't have to do anything to do damage in this map because it is a fish bowl on the front line. So Makoa and Khan are really picked up to just absorb damage and buy time for the Grover. But now with the Inara, it is not going to be as easy of a frontline battle as they would have hoped, and it's the Saris who from long range can keep that Inara nice and healthy. This is a decent lineup from Flashpoint.
Yeah, Sarah's definitely poking her head out a couple times on PC. I think, you know, no one's really scared to pick her up. She's absolutely viable, just doesn't bring quite as much as some of those other supports. The damage, not quite as good. Her escape is very, very strong, I will say. Her ultimate at this level is just hard to hit because these players are so good at getting around
Nick,
it.
every single character here has a CC immune ultimate and a CC immunity to their kit. Khan, not even the ultimate. Every 12 seconds he's able to go into the battle shout
and get
the
rest of his team.
This is a tough one for Saris to have value on the convergence,
I
but
will
I
say,
see why they went for it.
Saris is rarely picked up for convergence value, similarly to how I think Genesis rarely picked up through time and space value. It's a cherry on top thing that if your support player is good enough to get value for that every single time, if anything, that's going to throw your enemies way off balance because they're probably not used to it.
I was definitely worried about Flashpoint, about Elevate's lineup, but I liked the Willow Hover. I also like the Lex Hover. The Willow gives them that dynamic I talked about that I think was important on Frog Isle. Was the difference in height that you're looking at, the sky threat and the ground threat. It keeps things a little bit more, I think, consistent here for Elevate, but I think this is 2 different directions that can work. And the Pip being hovered as well, a lot of options.
Clearly, Elevate not sold on just about anything. The Willow there,
I like the Willow the most.
So much, really? She's got so much hit scan to deal with Leon and Vivian.
But that ultimate is the best on this map in particular. And Nick, this is her highest win rate map. Yes, counters are existing. Yes, they're in this game for sure. But Willow naturally does well with the Seedling, the Fishbowl mechanic. She's almost always above players, which I think will help her hit her basic attacks and her dead zone.
I mean, Leon, Vivian, looks good on paper, but they got to do their thing in-game. Dead zone is going to be incredibly important here for shutting down Sarah Sonara. And maybe that's why it's just simply too much healing to give up, and Willow's the only way to shut it all down.
Well, this is going to be interesting. Honestly, I can't wait to watch this game because these are scrim partners. We've got the winner of the Last Land in Flashpoint. We've got the MVP of the Last Land in Legacy. No longer subbing, starting here for this squad as Swiper is no longer with us. Let's see who takes game 1 in these Battle of Titans as we send it down to the casters.
Thanks, Evan. Thanks, Nick. Of course, it is Vox and Gavi on the Castle Tigris here to start things off today. And you know what? I'm looking at big circles, specifically for Elevate here, and on the other side of Flashpoint is a lot of direct damage, a lot of direct assault here, but it's that big circle which kind of really comes back on console that I'm excited about.
Yeah, and as far as the drafts go, we do want to know who are you favoring going into this game, because it should be interesting when you have all that hit scan potential, but then the anti-heal on the opposite end attempting to shut down that Saris as early as possible.
That's right, folks. Let us know who you think is going to win in this Mixer poll right now. We'll see if your predictions come right after the game goes on through. And as I think Nick and Evan were really talking about there's a lot of CC immunity coming through on Elevate's draft as well, coming right around to the Willow as well at the end, but that little hover on the Willow at the end there, they weren't really committed into going into it. A lot of counters, which were remarked in there as well, kind of stalling out on that draft like an American trying to drive a manual transmission, folks. And at the end there, do you think the Willow's going to pay off here? Is that going to be the be-all, end-all?
I do like that they went with this, because if they didn't, then they're missing a lot of that verticality that is possible to take advantage of on this map, and everybody on the opposite end is going to be surrounding the low ground a lot. So when you can have that vantage point, throw down the ceilings, throw down that anti-heal to try and corral them on a map that tends to be spread when you're on the push.
Very much so. And again, we've also got solo frontline for the side of Flashpoint, and then Elevate, they're running the double frontline, the Grover, the Khan, a lot of spot healing as well. How do you feel on Fish Market specifically the solo frontline is going to fare when they have to deal with the Willow?
I think that if they can shut down early, it won't be a problem. Sometimes the single frontline on this map can be a bit vulnerable because of the open space around it. You can duck down behind different boxes and everything, but it looks like most people, but only by a little bit, are favoring Elevate so far within this draft.
That's a lot of NA bias coming through there. It's interesting to see the fact that, you know, Flashpoint as the previous LAN winners from the Paladins console wars aren't really, you know, pulling ahead in that. I'm a little bit disappointed, but maybe that just speaks as to what we've seen during the PCS going through and how confident chat especially feels with the hometown heroes coming back in the NA side Elevate. I can't wait to start this off. Looking through this initial loadout and some of the talents here, Gabby, I saw sap rounds from the Legacy right there. That's an interesting pickup.
Interesting, and we saw a little bit of that earlier as well, so it seems to be a bit more of the popular choice. And you look at Neil coming in with the Grover, which is a very interesting pick here.
That unstoppable card in the loadout. 30% damage reduction for 4 seconds after using Blossom. This Grover is going to be really hard to kill. And
increasing that radius of bloom by 50% as well, so that you can get a bit more of that reach. But I can see the first blood onto Boom.
And I mean, that's just Vivian in a nutshell, right? You put her on a line of sight, you get her to hold mouse one, or in this case, right trigger, and you just kind of don't let go, and down goes QD Neal as well to Legacy. 2 kills already for this player. MVP of the last Paladins console wars LAN. Can't barely able to escape out the way for the time being. Legacy going to back up a little bit. On the objective, it's 48% and rising for Flashpoint here.
A very different role, though, than he was on last time around.
Vivian has a slight difference to Makoa. I mean,
just a little bit.
Vivian's kind of like a bit more of a fragile Ruckus, right? So there's a bit of a frontline tie in there, but definitely not the turtle. That's the big one.
So it also affects the way that he's having to position. Good lad on the buck, getting shut down right now, but he's had some tremendous performance on these damage dealers as well. Wow. It looks like Elevate, though, might be trying to bring this back again against this 99%.
And look who comes in. It's Sir James Parker on the Cassie with a double kill. Remember them from the console wars at HRX, Gabby? I certainly do. A lot of Lian play for this player right now. They're really starting to bring it out with the direct damage dealers again. Atomic Boom setting up on the high ground. SJP picks up yet another kill on the Storm Avatar, and that's bad. There's no sustain now for Flashpoint, and it's 87% and rising for Elevate.
Ooh, they matched that so quickly when it was looking all upside for Flashpoint, but now Elevate, they're forced off of this point just a little bit because of the fact that Blue Side was able to move in a bit higher in HP, not losing any members just yet, and it's going to take too much time for Sir James Parker to get back.
But
one ultimate, though.
There's the Whirlwind. That just resets the fight completely for Elevate. They're all back up. They're all healthy. I mean, there's a Willow ult that could come through as well if necessary, but it just doesn't matter. Elevate get the first capture there, and Flashpoint didn't have any form of sustain, but this is my thing, Gabby. If Flashpoint lose Saris, it's over for them. If Elevate lose the Grover, they've still got a Khan around. They've still got some of that spot healing.
I think that's a very good point. When you diversify that sustainability within your draft, then you're not punished so much on a map where you're really, really punished for any death because of the distance between spawn and there. But Sir James Parker picking up another one and executing exactly in that way, taking out the support and stemming the bleeding.
And that just shows to me as well that Flashpoint need to be a bit more careful with their positioning here as well, Gabby. The payload's about reaching the point on this map where we normally see a defense coming through. You can see Inara positioning, able to contest without really revealing too much. But oh no, as Prosper Logic is about to go down. No, does get one kill to QD Neal. Atomic Boom will clean them up, and Atomic Boom might be able to find a good lad here as well. Recovery does come through. The reload just when you don't want it. And Elevate do take the wipe. A very, very very narrow hold there for Flashpoint because they had lost their sustain, but if they keep on losing Storm Avatar, this is going to be really problematic for them.
But that also showed the power of the ability for Good Lad to stay alive on this buck, looking like it was downside for him, but able to survive it. There's the lockdown, whooshing away Legacy and punishing him.
So tell me the value as well of picking immediately the Vivian here rather than the Inara. We often want to get rid of frontlines if you can so quickly with an overpower, but this Vivian, has she been that much of a problem?
I think right now when you're in this push portion, because of the fact that Flashpoint, when you have this advantage and the space that you can travel across with your damage, then it makes it really hard for you to push forward when you're constantly taking poke on top of that payload. So you eliminate Legacy, and just as you saw, they did it again, because it's so hard to reach them when they're on the defense.
Especially as well when you've got this Inara who's able to hold in the front line, but the Inara is only able to survive as a solo front line quite so well because there's a lot of damage coming from other areas, right?
Exactly.
You know, you cut off the head and then all of a sudden the body's left exposed, and Inara gets focused down so easily when there's a Willow on the table as well. Already this draft, the anti-heal, the big circle healing coming through from Elevate is paying off, but is there a way that you see Flashpoint kind of bring themselves back in?
I think that last time around they were going really heavy in the beginning of the capture portion, getting a few kills, feeling pretty good about themselves, got to 99%, but Elevate were able to wait them out, regroup, and then turn the tables on them. So I think Flashpoint needs to just take a bit more time, not try to rush that capture too much, because this can be, on this map, a bit more back and forth than others, similar to Ascension Peak.
Part of the problem here, Gavi, is that we've already got a Master Riding 2 for Ioni Ob, and Ob is straight onto the objective, although wait for maybe some of these ultimates to come out. Convergence is ready. Good Lad in a lot of trouble. Reach the sky, says Willow, though. Atomic Boom going up into the air, and with the morale boost buffed up already, they'll have that charged up again very quickly, forcing out the Ceres in a shadow travel, dropping a lot of damage onto the Inara. Might have overextended here, though, and Atomic Boom does take a spill, but SJP is here. Sir James Parker cleans up one. Sir James Parker cleans up two. Can they find Storm Avatar as well? Dodge roll comes through. That's a triple kill for the Cassie coming back in. MVP coming through right there. That's the kind of damage potential that we want to see.
I did learn that when he's at a LAN, he always has his Crocs, and I think that's where he's pulling that power from the feet to his fingertips on that controller, because that triple kill single-handedly right now was able to allow them to capture this. It's 3-0 so far in favor of Elevate.
I tell you what, Gabby, with shoe style like that, you definitely don't want to go toe-to-toe with this player.
Not at all. You know, we got to get a fashion shoot or something going on.
He's already a foot and a half ahead of everybody else here.
He's bringing it back.
Certainly the case, and here we go. Scout as well comes through. Crossbow gonna fire off the Enlightenment. Doesn't find it. Ooh, does get Cutie Neil though. So again, that's a bit of the sustain. The majority sustain away from Elevate, but they still have this Khan. Overpower at the ready. They might be able to find an Inara here if they're not very careful. Could pick up the Vivian as well, but double shield comes through. There's the Battle Shout as well. It's gonna stall out for a while here, Gabby, but I don't see this one really being a kind of a pickup that Elevate can continue from. It looks like Flashpoint have taken their momentum away quite well.
I liked the way they approached that fight because they grouped together, went on the slight high ground, and then just basically bomb dropped down onto Elevate, which just added some disorientation, whereas Good Lad was coming from the side through that tunnel archway-ish area. So then how are you going to figure out who you're focusing on when you have people come from different angles? But there's another slap of that ult to throw over the edge. All this constant pressure onto Legacy, clearly the priority target for Elevate.
They just deal so much damage. That's a double kill then for Whoosh right now, who's leading the charge on Khan, trying to make some space. Elevate taking very advanced positioning with Neil able to kind of hold down this objective, having that increased blossom radius on the Grover right now. And as we've got 1 minute left on the clock, it's 3-0. Elevate could push and convert here to take the entire win. How do Flashpoint hold on under this circumstance?
They do have a few ultimates available to them if he can get a great convergence to try and slay them away, but that's so difficult at this point because look at the way the Elevate are starting to collapse. Shu gets that kill onto I Only Op B. Your frontliner is gone, and yes, damage is important here, but there's an attempted ult.
Look at that, it's the battle shout coming through from Khan. The CC immunity just goes on to everybody. I mean, what are you going to do there? This is an easy push coming through right now for Elevators. I think we only saw one convergence that entire game. Just lack of efficacy from ultimates there hurt Flashpoint so badly, and Elevate's draft wiped the floor with them.
And that's exactly what the desk was talking about with the draft for Elevate. They had so much CC immunity, many ways to counter those ultimates where, yes, you're not planning on relying on convergence before going into game to be the thing that's going to win it for you.
Right.
but it kind of hurts when you can't get anything from it.
Kill. We expect most players to, if they land a good conversion, to be able to pick up maybe one kill there, but Khan just, hits the Q button or hits the battle shout button on your controller and says, no, absolutely not. And with that in mind, folks, a 4-0 in the first game for Elevate over Flashpoint. It's looking like we're going all NA for this land so far, Gabby, with how the previous set went as well. What are your thoughts on that game?
Well, I think that if you're looking just at ultimates in particular, when you see the Khan ult used effectively on the right spot on the map, we also want to know who you think played superbly on that MVP status within that game. But if you compare when Whirlwinds came out, when the Khan ult came out, and things like that, as opposed to Convergence and Vivian, everything on the opposite end, it just seemed a bit too imbalanced.
Elevate then having great timing, great overall control of this map #1 of Fish Market. Evan, Nick, what do you think of that first game?
Well, I think when Shu said he was prepared, he definitely meant it. Elevate into the first game win.
I'm going to be real with you guys. I left the desk to go to the green room.
Sure.
I did a quick pre-game interview, or post-game interview, excuse me. I went into the green room, which is only, about a 15-second walk from this desk. And it's already 3-0, and I was like, what happened? How did this go so wrong so quickly?
And to me, you have two different factors. Sir James Parker plays out of his mind on Cassie, and that was a threat that they just had to deal with. And with the pressure added onto the Willow, being able to have Atomic Boom apply the dead zone to champions like Buck, who we haven't mentioned this, but the nerfs to his cards for bulk up and recovery, and those are big deals because that's the damage reduction. That's what you can't counter with dead zone. The healing on bulk up is counterable as far as how much you're getting back from it. You'll still get that base 300, but it's incredibly efficient for the Willow now, I think, to win the matchup against the Buck, especially if you have a Cassie playing the way SJP did on the wayside.
And it gets harder and harder just to draft against a team like this because you look at Cassie in the first set. She was picked.
Yeah.
But it wasn't overtly impactful, I will say. The one play I did catch was this. Right as I walked into the green room, I saw this clean little roll for the triple kill there. He's already got the perfect angle for the spray as well. And of course, he hits.
He doesn't hesitate on the roll and the flick, but hesitates a little bit on the spray.
Yeah, I know. He was ready to keep fighting, then I think he realized it was over.
Wait, no, I don't. He was like, spray. Wait, no, I got to keep fighting. Wait, no, everyone's dead. Okay, spray. And that's the mind of a true champion, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. You get it in when you can, for sure. Elevate, dominant first game. For you, is that the draft, or is that just, are they that good at Fish Market?
I think this is scrim partners. I think mainly because as much as you can do that to them, it's Fnatic Navi, right? They'll 4-0 each other, and then they'll go back and 4-0 the opposite team. So I think it's scrim partners, but I do think it's map. I think it's the underestimation of the Willow, the CC immunity of the ultimates, where a lot of their gameplay hinges on. And I think Khan just does whatever he wants. It felt like there was just some staleness to the way that Legacy was operating the Vivian. It wasn't very dynamic. He went right side every time, just shot point, and then got aggressed on and died. And you got to say, there has to be some awareness of, hey, you can't just shoot at the point before you start getting damaged. And that was sometimes just not in his mind, it felt like.
Maybe we'll see this be something like, remember Burrito and D69, Frog Isle and Stonekeep? They would just destroy each other, and maybe that has a little bit of more impact on these scrim partner matchups, because you get to that point where I think you just let them have that one. It's like, we don't really feel like getting better at Stonekeep or Frog Isle or Fish Market. You just have that one, and we'll go from there.
But a best of 3 makes it extremely
hard to
precarious for you to not feel attached to winning the maps. There's only one more to go now for Elevate to move on and face the winners of the first matchup, which was Onslaught. So the ability for, Elevate, I think, to be able to be here in this position, you got to feel good, man. You got to feel really, really good.
And I'm being told that this is Elevate's map pick. So Fish Market wasn't even their map, and they 4-0'd.
Yeah.
Wow, what a performance there. So now, I mean, assuming everything goes according to plan, they're able to perform on the map that they feel is their best foot forward. Elevate should be able to wrap this one up. Hopefully nothing goes awry in the draft. If I'm Flashpoint, though, I'm feeling the pressure because I just got destroyed on my map pick. I have to do something in the draft to throw Elevate off balance. I have to throw a weird ban in there, a weird pick, to make them make a mistake.
And there was no Furia involved. That ban came from Flashpoint. I wonder if we'll see that again. They didn't ban it. Actually, it went from Elevate, so they didn't ban it because Flashpoint had the opportunity to pick it. Elevate here, most likely passing on that ban, I think. The healers being banned probably threw them into a weird spot with the Ceres. It was more of a, oh god, this is just what we have. I'd expect a Flashpoint ban on the Furia here and Elevate to be able to have their picks of tanks or the Buck. Or the Willow, to be honest.
Khan will take a seat. Leon definitely had her into the Willow, but wasn't a big problem. Clearly as the 4-0 in less than 8 minutes, 7 minutes.
The issue with Fish Market and Willow is because she can peek too well. She can show up at the right time too well on that map. She's really never isolated, Nick, and I think to me that's where maps start to distinguish themselves. Here, you know, Leon may be able to have a decent time with the Willow, although there is that high ground.
Yeah, very. When you compare it to Fish Market, very little relevant high ground on Bright Marsh, and certainly no cover on that high ground to do what you were saying, like to peek and to just kind of pop out when you need to. Furia first picked by Elevate. This is a switch in the draft here for Flashpoint. They're going to grab the double blaster right out of the gate.
And I don't mind this either, because now you have 2 threats that you have to keep track of. Remember how hard it is for Drogos to move sideways? Same thing for players to shoot up and down at the same time. You add this with a triple DPS of somebody, if the Leon is available, take that away because that's a great counter. But even if you go into something like a Vivian, if it's available, like a Victor, those 3 threats in 3 different areas is going to be very hard for somebody like a Buck to keep track of consistently.
I think it definitely dissuades Elevate from picking Inara a little bit, just having to play into a Dragon Punch and a Dead Zone. It's like, well, what does Inara do at that point?
Yeah.
She's easy to kill. She's hard to heal. So
at
we'll
least
just
she
go
has
for
damage
the
reduction.
Yeah, we'll go for the Makoa, I suppose.
At least she's a rock.
And I got a rock.
I got a rock.
Makoa will be the selection. Elevate, if they want a blaster, they have SJP, and Bomb King is open. Bomb King has definitely fallen out of favor, though, across both platforms. I would say he's not been highly prioritized. Wasn't picked at all in the first set, so that's not exactly something I'm holding my breath for.
And to just backtrack on this, I think maybe Flashpoint banned the Fernando because they know Elevate will first pick Furia, and that will open up the 2 blasters for them. That's clearly what they wanted here, because the Fernando ban doesn't make sense when you're giving away a clearly potent healer that will out-heal what you've got. But the Grover Efflorescence style has been proven to work here. The Inara, obviously, away from the blaster pressure for Elevate. Now Flashpoint has kind of a decent lineup to be able to sustain endpoint and pressure out the Makoa.
I think you got to pick a Leon here. You need the anti-heal. You need the hit scan threat to be able to deal with the Drogos and Willow somewhat. You can also...
Do you need more?
You can dive with Leon as well. Leon and Buck can dive together with the Inflame, with that bonus damage. It makes it so easy to trade out with an Enlightenment. But it looks like it might just be the Cassie run back here. If SJP is feeling good on it, why stop there?
Free Tommy Jet. All right. All right. And some G Fuel as well. I think the Cassie is because SJP's magnificent game last time. So they're trying to take that away. I don't think they feel comfortable just letting him slot that into an easy 5th pick. But that opens up the Leon. So in many ways, Flashpoint kind of counter-banning, counter-picking to be able to have all the things that they want available. But is here where we see some trickiness. Is here where we see a last pick no one expects. And that's where the Barrack kind of surprises me.
Well, it'll definitely help them in terms of the damage department. If they look like they want to run a double frontline, I think you could have easily set yourself up to run a third DPS here, some type of hit scan. Leon was still open for Logic, but maybe they just don't have the roster to run that confidently.
Bright Marsh is a rough room with a Terminus, a Makoa, a Furia. You got a Grover, a Willow, and a Inara.
Right, and you kind of want to double down on the fact that you have a Grover and you want another front line to maybe leverage that a little bit more.
So I think this is going to give them a lot of flexibility, though. Will elevate themselves into the next round, or will it be Flashpoint who tie it back up? The recent LAN winners threaten to go down in the loser's bracket after just one more game on Bright Marsh. Let's send it to Vox and Gabby for the call.
So double frontline, Gabby, all around, which is a little bit surprising considering what we had heard about Elevate, saying that they love having this kind of dive composition, but we want to know what you guys think at home and who is going to win. I think words are somewhat in the right order there. There's a mix-up poll going on, folks. Vote for the team that you think is going to come out on top this game. Maybe we'll see Elevate 2-0 in this best of 3. Maybe we'll see Flashpoint pull it back. What are your thoughts?
Well, we were just talking. You were talking about how they should go Barrack on the side of Flashpoint.
Absolutely.
And they ended up...
Oh my god, I predict drafts phenomenally. Barrack seems like one of the ones where you provide a lot of damage, and just the fact that you got these deployables, this shield, it interrupts the dive potential from Elevate quite well, but The concern here for me is how do you deal with the Terminus, and will the Inara be able to like use that Waters field to kind of interrupt that a little bit?
It's the Terminus plus the Makoa that are going to have domination.
Look at the, hello, Illuminate.
Oh boy.
Or B, Illuminate? Really? There's nobody that goes invisible like at all on the side of Elevate. That's got to be a misclick with the thumb right there.
Yeah,
but also,
or
B has gone
Autobuy.
for. I don't think Autobuy even does get you Illuminate.
Oh yeah, that's true. I don't even know, and that's just seems like wasted credits at this point. First Blood goes to SJP, but I can't really think of the exact motivation behind that.
We've said this before, a little bit in a meme way, but folks, it's all about that. It's all about that foresight. It's all about that 2020 vision. You know, the best way to outplay your opponents is to see what they're gonna do before they do it, and the best way to do that is actually by picking up Illuminate. Apparently, and it's a dead even tie, folks. 50-50 to Elevate and Flashpoint right now. 60% on the objective for Elevate Flashpoint. They're falling behind a little bit. Oh no, this hair trigger Barrack could go in big right now. Ionior B picks up Whoosh to start things off. SJP trying to find traction around the outside of the map. Willow's got their number though, takes a lot of damage here. One more shot will do it, and the Legacy cleans him up. This is good for Flashpoint, but Elevate have so much control. And now it's Cutie Shu coming in with the buck while being forced out by a good lad. Atomic Boom retreating, Gabby. This could be the turnaround.
Locked down into the side corridor and eliminated. No boom in sight, so Flashpoint are going to match that 90%. Good lad from that high angle, and Shu, he had popped the Buck Wild in a way where he was covered on a couple sides, so he more had to use an escape mechanism as opposed to leaning in the manner that Elevate usually likes to do. They like to be aggressive and push in that way, but they're forced out of that zone.
And look at the amount of shutdown we just had, as it is actually Flashpoint who's able to get the capture there. With Shu being trapped by the treacherous ground waters field from Inara, just can't really go anywhere, and that just lets the Drogos or the Willow free fire. That's a really dangerous situation for this Buck to be playing into. I think that Elevate needs to work a lot on their positioning if they want to have a better time on the neutral capture point, Gabby.
That's exactly what I was thinking, looking at Flashpoint's positioning in particular, taking advantage of all these angles, and on the opposite side, Willow taking to the sky. But really,
you can't go over that.
Yeah, you gotta navigate to the side a little bit. Shu has to find safety within that capture area.
Gabby, Shu's not dead. Shu is still alive right now.
Because he hid away.
Able to survive. You know, there's a lot of damage reduction on Buck right now on this specific patch, which is the one before actually alive now. And Shu is waiting around here, pops the recovery, gets a lot of damage reduction, able to escape again, but Atomic Boom picks up a good lad. And that amount of distraction coming in from Buck, and I guess the destruction as well, if you manage to get a good ult, is what this pick really brings to the table. And it's allowed Elevate to really stall out here.
The Ancient Rage to just slap into the face of I only ought B. You take down that frontliner, but there's still two on the side of Flashpoint. They are getting a bit of regression onto this objective, but Elevate, a few ultimates available to them, not as many as Flashpoint at this time. But still, I think they're doing a good job of holding. They finally seem to get some of their positioning online by sending these frontliners forward.
And I love the fact that Shu's up on the high ground, but gets caught out midair by iGoodlad. I was about to ask you, who do you really want to pick here if you want to start this fight off? But it turns out that they want to deal with the annoying flank that's been around them so long. Flashpoint off to a good start. They got a low health Inara who does need to regenerate here. Furia trying to throw out some Pyre Strikes to provide some disruption. Big fire speed opportunity. Good shell shield. There's the yeet coming through from Inara's Legacy. Throws down the Stone Spear. Whoosh could reanimate here in a lot of trouble. Will get chewed on through. Legacy picks up 2 in a row. Cutie Shu in a lot of trouble as well, as out comes the crippling throw. Doesn't quite lock him down, but iGoodlad ends their life, and it's 19 seconds to go on this push before overtime, and Elevate have taken a full team wipe and must recover.
Shu had to know he was going to die there, right? He kind of just hopped into
I
the
think
middle.
at that point you're just buying time for the respawns.
Yeah,
You've
exactly.
got like 10, 20 seconds left on the push. It's alright, a few seconds here or there is good.
Time yourself with the rest of the team. Try and make it so that the enemy is a bit distracted. They're going overhead with the Dragon Punch. Probably going to find one of the largest targets. Takes out the sustain on the opposite end, but Good Light gets punished. You see that 1-for-1 trade often, but the Dome Shield right now.
I really like that actually. You take away the Furia who's been keeping these frontliners alive. You know that Ancient Rage is already used, and it's going to be a case of forcing maybe the reanimate from Terminus if you want them to do something here, but no, Elevate's going to hold on to that one. Respawns are starting to come back on through. Furia is back again, and Cutie Shu is up back at full health, but look at that crippling throw in a lot of trouble here. Takes a fire spit to the face from iGoodlad, and now it's just a battle of the front lines on the objective. Legacy holding things down. Big Grover heals coming through. Whoosh in so much trouble. Fire spit up top. Up north towards the Cassie forces SJP back in the base, and these Fusilier rockets are just slamming on down home. That is overtime ticking on through. Somehow Elevate were holding on, but it is Flashpoint that get the conversion for a 2-0.
And that's such great positioning when you can stay under that zone as Drogo, so you can hop over and punish the enemy team for being near the spawning area, even if they're forced to back off. But as you're seeing in that replay, Atomic Boom on the Makoa, when you can get an Ancient Rage like that and you know exactly where your target is going to be, I think the target selection in general is very important, right? Because when you're on Flashpoint, you're looking, okay, Neil, we need to cut off that healing. Okay, he's gone. Who are we all going to focus on next?
Right, and on the side of Elevate, you got to be very careful with who you do pick off. But speaking of lack of that, Prosper Logic right now, I think there were 0 deaths so far, going into the morale boost one, getting a little bit of Haven online there as well. But so far, this Willow's been a really big problem. 14 streaks so far, Gabby. How do Elevate deal with this airborne threat, or are they just going to keep on struggling?
I think the problem is they're trying to steal their strategy of the high ground before. Instead of just trying to steal and preoccupy, go ahead and focus on, as Shu just did. You know where they're going to be. You know where they're located. Get the double kill. And now in pursuit of the Willow, that's your last target right now. One last lap, and that's a lot of kills for the Buck.
3 down for Cutie Shu so far. Looking for a 4th one. Ioni or B gets shoot through. 4 kills in this fight so far for Elevate's Buck. And this is why you want to shut down the Unyielding, but they're going to get out for scot-free. That's the bulk up coming through, and he certainly don't suck. He certainly bulks up, and now it is 74% and rising with Comeback Mechanic on the objective for Elevate.
Yeah, when you have Comeback Mechanic, you only really need one good fight, and Atomic Boom placing that, using the Ancient Rage, not really as necessary, but really wanted to just secure.
It's the nicer way of saying lazy ult right now, folks. But, I mean, it works, right? It forces everybody back, and I think at that point, Flashpoint, they're going to have to overcommit to get back to the objective. They're in a better place just to try and hold on to this defense now, and in order to really help out with that, look at Ioni or B here as pushing very far into the enemy backline, causing this big distraction, but might have just overextended there. That's Terminus with Crush coming through.
It was almost as if he was hoping no one would see him while he set up the shields, set up his turrets.
Funnily enough, people turn around when they're shot in professional games, Gabby. They kind of notice the fact that, like, I'm taking some damage here.
Especially when there's, 3 people on the team, and they're all taking damage from one singular direction.
I'm sensing a correlation in this positioning right now. Beautiful Dredgehanger comes on through, and Cutie Shu tries to find the damage onto Drogos. Can't pick up the kill here. Again, that was an ultimate just invested there. That was a seismic crash from Inara just to be able to pick up the Buck here because the payload's almost made it all the way through.
Oh, Prosper Logic gets the double kill right now on the Willow, and Elevate have made a lot of progress, so they need to keep getting this. iGoodLad picks up another one. This is Flashpoint starting to finally hold on to this defense, and you saw the way that Buck was able to get burned down by being in that anti-heal area, not having access to his Furia. When they can isolate him like that, it's fine, as opposed to during the last round, you saw him have so much survivability because, oh, I'm at 20% HP, now I get back to full because of my support.
Also, just to play around to that positioning as well, as Inflame has come through from Elevate and they're looking to find a way through. When you're on the high ground as Buck and Willow's shooting up to you, it's much more difficult for her to land that dead zone, and this time around, if Flashpoint are able to position Prosper Logic in a place where he can shoot the dead zone down onto enemies, I think they'll have a lot more efficacy here from this pick so far, but that's a double kill to the Legacy. Elevate, they're being forced back. Triple kill for the Inara here. Flashpoint are holding strong, and I think there's about one more push left for Elevate right before it goes into overtime.
And Flashpoint didn't even use any ultimates for that turnaround, right? They just progressively move forward onto Elevate, knowing that they had just used Inflamed, waiting that out a little bit and keeping themselves not too vulnerable during that time. But then at this point, you're about 15 seconds left on this push. Elevate have gone almost all the way back to 50% on this, and Flashpoint, this side cubby right here where you can hide behind the wall and you have that verticality to peek over, makes it difficult for Elevate to break that barrier.
So overtime likely to come through. Atomic Boom around 2/3 of their health right now. Flashpoint retreating a little bit. Inara losing some health. Here comes the whirlwind from Grover just to hold on. Easy kill on Atomic Boom. Cutie Shu's found one, but a good turnaround right there from iGoodLad, and that'll take the wind out of the sails of Elevate right now. They've lost a lot of their incoming damage threats, and as we see, just some certain plays coming through, like the Legacy here on Inara, just able to do so much work for Flashpoint, helping cleaning up with these consistent shots. Damage coming from all areas of Flashpoint's draft right now is a really big lead into why they're succeeding here.
And I think the fact that the support is sticking so closely to whoever is moving forward helped, because you saw that the damage was getting a bit returned, but that survivability that's happening, let me clean up here, let me clean up there. And again, with the fact that when you're on the opposite end, you just used one of your really key ultimates and you had others, they looked like they were struggling. Do we want to use more resources? Do we want to back off here and recognize the fact that Flashpoint was doing so much with the little they had?
7-1-18 for the Willow so far for Prosper Logic. Now seeing as well on a cauterized 3, but it's SJP who's topping the damage charts right now. This Cassie's still holding on and got a Blast Shields 3 online now as well. Do you feel like this damage reduction is going to help make the difference in maybe facing off against this double blaster?
Well, Flashpoint, as soon as they locked in that composition, I feel Elevate knew exactly what they were going to do itemization-wise, and right now taking full advantage of it with the Inflamed once more, get 2 eliminated on the side of Flashpoint. You still have comeback mechanic because it's 1-3, but they're able to turn it back.
Really big turnaround right there as well. Not a good place to Dragon Punch though. Good lad tries to escape, but SJP's got their number. There was a trade back on a buck, so that helps Flashpoint hold on a little bit, but Gabby, it's still comeback mechanic. Beautiful Pyre Strike stun as well comes on through, and now you've got to dive onto the objective. Legacy gets there just in enough time, but Whoosh is just brawling out in the front line because they've got Reanimate, and who's going to contest that? Overtime is ticking. Legacy dives on in, but it's 1 versus 3 on the objective. Resets overtime once. Buck Wild comes on through. Big salvo. Shu's in a lot of trouble. One more shot will do it. Recovery does come on through, though, and this is just a back-and-forth brawl on the objective with Elevate in full control. Dome Shield does provide some zone, but again, Storm Avatar goes down. SJP picks up a double kill, and we know how fights go when this Cassie starts rolling.
Man, I think it was the moment that Reanimate happened and it forced members of Flashpoint out of that area. It gave enough time for Elevate to rotate in, so as soon as they went back towards the objective, they're not just facing off against 1, they're facing off against 3.
That's just a difficult situation to be in all around there. A really good fight from Flashpoint, able to stagger things out with successive ultimates. Maybe if they were able to group up and use those in combination, it could have been a full turnaround, but alas, they were so staggered from those early deaths in the fight that they just kind of had to try and hold on there, and now it's up to Elevate to try and make the way through, but B's already found 2 kills with Barrack on this defense.
Bye, Cassie.
Do we call it a kill? I mean, it's more of a plunge pool. It's like, all right, we're going to go on a swimming trip.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's decent weather. I wouldn't swim in that water, though. I always think it looks a little too mucky.
You don't want to swim in the swamp?
Nah,
you know,
I prefer to stay away from that sort of.
Some people pay for the privilege of swimming in like these mud baths, Gabby. That could be really
maybe
good for your skin.
If you're near, if there's a spring out there or something, and it's.
I'm a little bit concerned about all the alchemical runoff though from Pip's potions, and maybe you take a bath in there, and all of a sudden you come out looking a little bit like a chicken, and it could be a bit of a problem right now. But speaking of looking like chickens, it's Elevate on this offense. They're just losing members again and again. They can't find any traction here.
They use too many ultimates without getting much value from it. Flashpoint very aware of that, just turned the tables back onto them. Shu with that recovery to keep himself top for only a moment's time, but even though there was a Barrack in his face, there was a Willow right above his head as well.
You know, speaking of this Barrack, talk to me about how you feel about this hair trigger talent being picked up, because we see on at least PC so much, it's the tinkering because you got that precision. Hair trigger brings a completely different style of how Barrack frags out.
Yeah, I think that when you have 2 frontliners on the side of Flashpoint, then you kind of want to try and alter one of them so they can add to that damage, especially because you have 2 blasters. You need some other way to try and facilitate. And especially because of his survivability, when you're bringing something like that level 5 bowling ball so you can get in and out with a lot of HP still, you have that shield, then it allows you to be more aggressive without getting too severely punished.
And as well, you mentioned the bowling ball there. We're seeing a parallel between what we saw on the PC LAN last week as well, with Failsafe being a popular pick so far from these Barrack players. They love going into this ability to reset the cooldown of their rocket boots, get this big bowling ball, 3 to 5 off, and get an extra shield in there as well. And that provides so much survivability. We're used to seeing Inara or Barrack as a solo frontline right now. You pick up both of them, and this is a team that is really hard to kill.
And I think that the way that IOnlyOpB is playing on this Barrack is very indicative of the type of build he's bringing. You see Legacy focusing on the point, as Inars do, and then Barrack a couple of rotations almost in a flanking fashion so that he can set up the turrets and then dive in with the dome shield when it's just needed.
And I really like the fact as well that we're not seeing any kind of fear come from this Barrack. He knows that with a hair trigger, you've got to get up in people's faces for that blunderbuss kind of shotgun spread to be really effective. So it's like, I'm going to get up in people's faces. I'm just going to keep on chipping away at these front lines. I'll build in some cauterize, and then the rest of my team can kind of deal with the big burst damage, but I'll be a constant threat. You leave me alone and I will chip you down through a fight. But if you focus on me, around comes Willow, around comes Buck, and Willow has been a problematic pick on the side of Flashpoint for Elevate. They've only managed to shut her down the last couple of fights, mostly using the Inflame to really just collapse on top of her. And if Flashpoint can find a way to disengage and respond to that, then there could be a really bad situation for Elevate.
Well, and that's exactly what we saw at one point. There was the Inflamed, and a few ultimates came out of Elevate. Didn't really get much out of it, and Flashpoint were able to capitalize. And exactly with that diversification, when you have Barrick with the ability to oppress from below, you have Drogos and Willow coming from different angles, then it makes it very difficult for the opposition to focus in one direction or another, because you have turrets on one side, you got Barrick, you went ahead and rocketed to the other, and ultimates online seem to be just in succession with one another.
With that in mind then, just because of the nature of it so far, the lack of ability for Barrick to get set up, it's been Elevate for the last couple of captures on the objective, but previously, Flashpoint, and now especially on defense, they're very hard to get out, really. They're hard to root out. You can't get them unestablished. I'm losing my words. You can't dig out the Barrack from his little trench here, folks. With that in mind, how do Elevate maybe look to go for a push here? Is there a way which you can displace this Barrack and, pull them out of their hole, or do you have to kind of just fight straight on through all those turrets?
Well, I think Elevate are benefiting from the fact that this game is going a bit longer, because they're building into this itemization that's allowing them to have a bit more of a defensive strategy, maybe get some separate. I wouldn't focus too much on the push, because if you lose too many of your ultimates and too much of your utility there,
right,
and you go into the capture where you have been using that comeback mechanic to your advantage, then you lose what's been working for you, right?
Very much so, and with that in mind as well, this could be Flashpoint tying the series up, or Elevate taking it away if Elevate are able to just kind of rinse and repeat a couple more times here as well. Now, we've talked a little bit about a bunch of different picks so far. The one which we've kind of been sleeping on so far, and I haven't felt too much of an impact from, is Terminus. We don't see a great deal of Terminus anymore. We did see Reanimate kind of be very useful in that last big capture fight, but Gabby, that's the big question for me. But my big question to you folks is, Desk, Evan, Nick, we're going to head back to you for a little while whilst we get things resolved. How are you finding the game so far?
Well, I was finding it pretty interesting, but I hear we have a pretty detrimental fix that needs to happen, so we'll adjust and have a remake of that match. Unfortunate, but it is, I guess, what we are left with doing today. But, I mean, looking at the bigger picture of how these two teams are fighting, it does seem that there's this resilience that Elevate are showing, despite, Flashpoint coming out on top, getting that early 2-0. Elevate have bounced back continuously off of that Sir James Parker Cassie play and found a lot of moments that have worked for them.
And we talked about how they had to pick up that Barrack, sort of double down on the Grover, and just that overall death ball feel of the composition that Grover is going to provide. That's supposed to win early, right? And I think, it's 2-0, but you can't panic, right? Because that composition is going to be strong early. It'll start to fall off. It'll get easier to deal with.
Yeah.
You'll start to feel them out. You'll start to figure out how they're trying to play this. Obviously, this is a scrim partner matchup, as well as the fact that this is Elevate's map pick, right? So they have everything going for them, I think, to be able to bounce back here.
Right.
And it is what it is. If a remake comes through, they will still have that knowledge from what they learned. The picks and bans aren't going to be changing it all, right? So they'll know exactly what started to go right for them. But on the flip side of that, Flashpoint will also have that knowledge and will have the opportunity to adjust as well.
And, you got to give the teams a little bit of credit here when they make hard situations look easy, because it's not easy, even though this comp is supposed to win early, to come back from that. I mean, that's saying, oh, man, this set is a real set. We could lose next game and be out in the loser's bracket. So they do a good job, and I think that's one of the things I'm testing for Flashpoint, and I'm testing for Elevate. They say they're consistent. They say they're confident. They say anybody can win, but can they actually prove that? And both teams right now in Game 2 have showed me that, yes, both can.
I think I like watching all the diversity that we've seen so far today, though, right?
It's been
I
fun,
thought it was going to be just a solid 3 DPS for everyone all the time, and that wouldn't have been fun to watch, because when you look back at the PC event, evolving around, 2 tanks and 1 tank and identifying this team really likes to have this, and maybe we can draft and use that against them. Not necessarily ban out all their picks, but just if we know what's coming, then maybe we can draft ourselves a little bit stronger of a composition.
Well, game pause. Currently, we are remaking Game 2 here on Bright Marsh between Elevate and Flashpoint. It will be Elevate who have the early one-game advantage off of Fish Market, which was a notoriously interesting pick, and they added the Willow, they added Sir James Parker's Cassie, and that was about all she wrote. It was a 4-0 4-0. Now, Brightmarsh was a 2-0 to Flashpoint, but we'll be resetting that. So if Flashpoint can come out with the same vigor, do you expect any adjustments to be made by Elevate, knowing how this composition worked and now seeing it in action?
It's really tough, right? Because you have sort of the plays and the counterplays, the ebbs and flows of every single game. When Flashpoint come out and things are going right for them, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They're going to just continue to do what they're doing because it's working for them. It's then on Elevate, who did respond. They found a way to win. Obviously, they weren't able to get their push all the way through, so it was a 1-3. Elevate were down. Now, in my opinion, it's up to Flashpoint, right? The ball's back in their court. They need to make that adjustment. They need to say, all right, what are they doing right that counters what we were doing right, and how can we get ourselves back on top of this situation?
Grover is so situational, but he's so not sometimes. It's weird how he can be played everywhere and have success, but it's certain players that bring out the most of your recent, kind of conversation around how you used to play back in the day, Grover, the melee Grover, favorite character of your past, and reminiscing on that. I think Grover here has the potential to throw some twigs, I guess, into the pathway.
Grover's tough. He's different because he's not the same type of support that the Genos is, or the Furia is, or the Saris is, where you can sort of just do your thing and you're going to get your healing. Grover can do that to an extent, but you have to just be aware of him. Think of him as one gigantic Grok totem that just kind of moves around the map. He's going to do his best to vine over to you as well. Ain't it?
A large Grok totem
comes to life. He has other things like the Gentle Breeze card in his loadout that if you pick that up, that can be a massive tool for you to play around. In some of these interviews that we've seen today, they talk about how impactful Toot Toot can be just because of the movement speed game. In Flame, we've seen that have incredible impact. You can have that on demand, right? That 10-second cooldown, depending on your Chronos level, of just if you can group up and get that through, you can really have a large movement speed advantage in a team fight, getting angles, as well as you are harder to hit when you are moving fast. You're going to be bouncing back and forth, strafing a little bit quicker than people are used to.
It's aggression, and it's you coming away from a fight, too. It's just taking yourselves and your team a second to say, let's just remove ourselves.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's get our bearings, and then let's go back into this with some more concentrated effort on where we need to attack. And I think that's why I'm feeling pretty confident about Flashpoint, again, having another chance to do this. I think they have a strategy, but with the Grover, it's very... you pick it and you try to make it work. And if it doesn't work, then you obviously have that moment where you're like, man, just didn't work this time. But having a go at it again helps to, I think, make sure the execution is right this time around.
I think they get out in front with this composition, which is what they need to do. Because, yes, it falls off late game, but they can still win. I've said that so much, right, where, it's going to start to fall off here, but they wouldn't pick it if it couldn't win down the stretch, Evan.
Well, it's time to get back to the casters here to begin Game 2 yet again. Gabby, Vox, back to you.
Oh my god, we're back again. Da-da-da.
Hey.
But, folks, I think this is similar to that Serpent Beach game we had in the PC land previously. We get to see more. It's a relatively even footing, probably going to be 3-3 after, or maybe 3-2 after that last push, and we just get to extend this into maybe a 7-point maximum game. That's the way that we're looking at it, that's the way that we're framing it. Get to see more action over and over again, but do you think with Flashpoint, with that in mind and having lost the last couple of objectives before the remake, they'll be coming into this and going, okay, well, we know what we did wrong, we can fix this?
Well, I think that we were saying it during the last game, they said it on the desk as well, because this is a composition that dominates a bit earlier. They'll be trying to lean a bit more that way, whereas Elevate on the opposite side should go in with the mentality, it's okay if we lose a bit early.
Hold on tooth and nail, just claws down as they're getting dragged towards conversion. Like, nope, we're staying here, and they're coming back in late. Gotta get those items online. The offensive items, the Illuminate. Actually, that's a really important one. We'll have to see if Oni or B goes for the Illuminate on Barrack again, or if maybe there would have been something different here. That could be all the difference, Gabby. The little bits of min-macking and
it's the Cauterize.
Maxing. Cauterize starts off. This was the fatal mistake, and they won the first point last time. Flashpoint did with the Illuminate. Now
that was the key, man.
See, they had all the foresight. They had that 20/20 vision because of the Illuminate, and now they're like, we know what's going to happen. That was the warm-up. That was the prediction here. They're going in with the Cauterize, and they're looking to deal with this hulking monstrosity that is Whoosh on the objective. Legacy setting up around the outside, up on the high. It is, of course, Buck, but Good Lad finds Cutie Shoe already. I don't think they were expecting that much damage to come on through, and it's very difficult to contest this Dead Zone Willow in combination with a Fusillade Drogos, because that is a lot of bot potential.
It was 21% with that survivability of Elevate on the point. Wish finally going down, though, because those Fury Keys just kept him around with that heal. But Flashpoint, with that early target, taking off that flank potential, now they rotate in.
They're looking to do more than rotate in. They're rotating back out again. Legacy's going to lock off one angle of entry, and don't forget that they've got this big crippling waters field that can be placed down the treacherous ground, and there we go, using it in the entrance, completely locks off the avenue of entry for Whoosh. Somebody's got to try and move in. It will be Terminus. Down slams the Massacre Axe. Whoosh takes a big Cherish shield coming through from Furia. Going to displace Legacy. This could be really big. Go Zig, says Cassie. Elevate trying to hit the gas pedal. SJP looks for some damage potential. Cutie Shoe comes on around as well. There's no dead zone available, and Flashpoint, they've got to disengage here.
It was 93% for Flashpoint, but now Elevate starting to rotate in once again. Storm Avatar, great angle, and you see Shu has to focus in a different direction. A good hook to bring in this Willow, and with some shielding, but is not enough to keep him alive. Losing 3 on the side of blue. Now Flashpoint ready to rotate in once more, and it's Terminus all by his lonesome, surrounded by Flash.
No ultimate either yet for the Terminus. It is one of the more slower charging ultimates in game. Very impactful getting a second life in here, and as overtime ticks down, that will be Flashpoint getting the first capture of this game. You know, I thought it would go a little bit more heavily towards Flashpoint based on how they took that initial fight, but a really good re-engage from Elevate ended up coming through.
I think it came down to, first of all, Legacy was doing a great job with the Inara blocking off all the entryways, but here's a Whirlwind to get things started for another potential fight as Flashpoint move on forward. And then also taken to the skies with the Willow.
And Willow has to be very careful right now, and Inflame has command and response. We know that SJP right now is leading the damage charts in this Cassie, so Prosper Logic's just going to back off here. Look to reset, maybe look for the opportunity to land a dead zone onto Buck as well. Shu's in a lot of trouble. The retreat comes on through. Out comes Scout as well, but everybody's nice and healthy. You got a Furia behind you early game, Gabby, and that's just gonna top you right on off there. That's a free American refill.
And that long shot to set that up for Prosper Logic to go down. Sir James Parker has had excellent precision with his shots at this point in time, but Elevate doing a great job of holding so far. Shu now zoning off against the Willow, and that's the key. Willow just keeps getting separated from the rest of the pack and focused.
You've got to cover out, and you've also got to pay attention to the cooldowns that come on through. And this is a really high aspect, or like high skill cap element of competitive play, is knowing when your opponent's cooldowns are. This being a shooter rather than a MOBA, they're typically a little bit lower than you might expect to see coming out of maybe something like Smite. However, on the other side of things, you really need to know when that dead zone is available. If that dead zone is dropped, and then you have the opportunity to go in as Buck and know that you won't be hit with this massive anti-healing, that's your window of opportunity.
Yeah, a few ultimates on both sides, though. You heard the Ancient Rage, and then you heard the Whirlwind, so it's the 1-for-1 right there. But it's Elevate and Flashpoint that both have a player currently down. Prosper Logic, he's back up on top. You see that Elevate have themselves spread, so they're not going to be fully punished by this blast capability. And then also hiding in that side corridor. But with the healing coming out of the Grover, this should make it easier for Prosper Logic to continue with his impact.
30 seconds remaining though on Flashpoint. They haven't found as much traction as they did before the remake on the push so far. It is 0-1, but they've barely made it out of the base, and Prosper Logic goes ahead and uses Faithlight Inflame in response as well. This seems a bit of a clown fiesta in terms of ultimates, Gabby. I do want to talk about an interesting Willow interaction I have just seen there, which is a combination play, but what was going on with that Inflame in response?
Yeah, that was a little strange. I think it was a bit of a panic when you hear that audio cue, and Flashpoint kind of punished for the fact that they were not really great with that Faithlight, and then in response you saw that Legacy was able to clean up and lock down a bit, but that's kind of the risky play to begin with, right? You're pretty far from your final objective. You would have a long ways to go. So the fact that Flashpoint was opting to use some of their ultimates despite the difficult journey that was ahead, I think was a bit too, how to say, I guess, optimistic.
That's fair enough. And with that in mind, let's take a look at Storm Avatar, the Grover's loadout, if we can real fast, because one interaction that I was just seeing with them and Prosper Logic, and as we have a look at it, interestingly enough, it's not in there. It's still going for the Unstoppable loadout, that damage reduction, but Prosper's having this sort of sideways movement speed boosted almost looks like as he's activating Faithlight, so it's getting a bit more traction, being a little bit less vulnerable than you otherwise would be with the old pre-change Willow ult, where you kind of stay static there like a Drogo's charging Dragon Punch. But again, this fight's starting off, it's 1-1 to both these teams. Up to the high ground go all of Flashpoint. They're looking for Shu round behind them. Shu's going to retreat here. Good Lad's going to kind of just hold on to that salvo for a little while as Atomic Boom gets forced back by a salvo and dead zone combo, and up comes the dead zone cooldown again. Neil could be in a lot of trouble, but look at that. SJP pokes immediately this Willow out.
Shu's rotation way into the backline bought a lot of time for Elevate and does eventually go down, didn't get any kills for it, but the rest of the team having that objective focus and Flashpoint kind of playing this cat and mouse game in the time being. But they finally start to rotate in to stem this just a tad. And there's the reanimate, so Elevate keeping themselves on the objective as much as possible. IonlyOp getting 2 kills before falling.
Yeah, 2 kills, but only really 1 because you do have the Terminus reanimating, of course, coming back to life. Cutie Neil is sitting around, going to boost up SJP as well in combination with the Inflame. This should be a good retake for Elevate. After Flashpoint try to hold on, out comes the Scout as well. Legacy finds 1. Overtime is ticking, and I'm not sure. Barely getting into touch. They just about get there. Barrack sets up as well. This is a Dome Shield. Flashpoint have a real turnaround opportunity here, and the Inara's back at full health. Down goes the Seismic Crash. Whoosh getting forced back, and you do have the Power Siphon, but it's not going to last forever here. And look at that bowling ball. Oh, not enough to save their life. Whoosh cleans up IonlyOp, and Elevate get the second capture, now leading 2-1.
That was looking for a moment like it was coming up Flashpoint because of throwing down that Dome Shield, having your frontliners right there, but then Elevate with the heals that was coming out of Furia. Terminus, who was in tremendous trouble considering that he didn't have his ultimate available, was able to keep up on surviving with that extra shield potential as well.
And that's the beauty of this cherished talent for Furia, the way that it scales off of your maximum health. If a Terminus is able to break Quarter Ice for just a couple of seconds, get, as well, that a bit of rejuvenate going on there, and, well, you're healed back up to full about as fast as Prosper Logic dies mid-air as a Willow facing SJP's Cassie.
And then right now, look at the progress that Elevate has made on this push. Much faster than Flashpoint was able to do previously. But they have a couple kills coming out on the defensive side. And almost, there you go, that last hit from downtown onto SJP.
And this is the point where Flashpoint are really going to exceed on defense. This is where Elevate weren't previously able to break them. You get the barracks set up on the peripheral left on defense, Legacy holds the right, and the main chokes, because you have so much ability to do so with your Waters Field and your Impasse Wall as well. So this time around, IonlyOp is being seen as the weak point. Willow's already very low. Beautiful Pyre Strike stun comes through. Out comes the rotation from Shu as the Inflame as well, as used to try and clean up these kills, but it's just not getting much efficacy in the way coming through here. iGoodlad's done a good job at stopping things out. Out comes the Whirlwind as well from Grover. And Elevate, they invested a lot there, but they weren't able to find the critical kill onto Willow that they needed.
Yeah, they didn't get the critical kill, but look at the survivability as well. That was the opening for Flashpoint to attempt to punish them for their aggressiveness, but in the end, that Furia showing that prowess once again. Legacy, a couple kills now, though, as they finally start to punish.
And I do like the counter rotation from Elevate. They realized that the area that they were trying to break through when this Barrack and Willow are up in the high ground wasn't quite as fragile as they might have expected. They weren't able to get that nice buck mid-air kill onto Willow, so they rotate around, they go for more where the Inara is. The problem is, Drogus is able to so easily rotate over with thrust, and if people are standing still, if they can't use a movement ability, these Fusillade rockets are just going to quickly 2 or 3 shot any of the damage dealers that are trying to contest that area.
And that's why whenever you see Legacy move forward and lock them down, so that Drogus says, okay, here they all are, let me deal that damage immediately. So it's that combination of that teamwork, and you see landing right overhead to bring down the damage from that high ground. But Elevate, you're in the final seconds. You still got 50% to go. You could try to get aggressive with this, but you just lost Atomic Boom. There's a Seismic Crash on the opposite end with plenty of ultimates to come as well, but Barrack into some trouble.
I feel like as well, even though there are kills going, a couple or at least one from Whoosh in the way of Elevate, Flashpoint are just going to hold on to this. Prosper Logic gets a triple kill, and that is a successful defense right there. And ultimately, at the end of that fight could have been prolonged if, we'd had an Ancient Rage come through from Makoa, but you're saving that for the objective fight. That's where you really need the ability to kind of turn the tide. Flashpoint have already proven that if they get onto the objective and they throw down a Dome Shield, they can hold on for a few seconds longer than you'd expect. So using something like Ancient Rage to counter that out, to be able to soak some of the damage from Dome Shield and carry on contesting, super valuable here.
Plus, Atomic Boom got taken a little bit early within that fight, so even if he was able to use it, it's kind of one of those, I'm not here to use it anyway, but even if I was, I probably wouldn't because I want to save it for the next round when it's 2-2.
Let's talk about damage dealt for the time being, though. 5, 5, and 10. SJP not pulling too far away in terms of KDA, but 100,000 damage already broken by the Cassie, and it's not enough to make a conversion go on through. Gabby, that speaks wonders as to the amount of sustain that Flashpoint have on them right now and their survivability, but God forbid Elevate managed to get to the back line.
It's the crazy thing about damage charts. You look and you're like, wow, 100K, but where are the kills? It's the fact that Flashpoint keep bouncing back after taking this damage. Shu with the ultimate gets a double kill, and here's the Ancient Rage we were talking about.
Problem is, though, Neil's about to go down to Prosper Logic. One big kill comes on through, and all that Fury healing is now off the board. Still, Whoosh finds one. Ioni or B waste the Dome Shield with no health left over. That's a misplay coming on through there. Unable to stall out. Prosper Logic soaks a couple of Grover heals, but SJP has their number. Call me later, says Cassie. I don't think he'll be on the battlefield for that much longer here.
You can't panic like that and throw up the Dome Shield when you're pretty much immediately going to die either way.
You got a Terminus with a cleave axe that's just walking into it and going, well, I'm going to hit everything inside this space. It doesn't matter if I lose 500 or 1,000 health, you're still going to die.
It's the case where you think, oh, when there's a Dome Shield up and Barrack is full, if you want a King Bomb or something to just go through and blast it and take it down, you don't even have to use anything with any of the ones that you do have up, but there's a Whirlwind right now to keep Flashpoint alive within this fight.
I think that's a good decision from Flashpoint as well, right? They regain momentum by using that Whirlwind just to take some of the momentum away from Elevate. They're able to get a couple more kills and able to establish themselves on defense. And as we've talked about before, that's the critical issue. If Flashpoint can get set up, Elevate don't have this big AoE damage to really displace them here. Is there any better way that you think they can deal with, the Barrack positioning specifically? Because that still feels like the weaker point to me.
I think it's the fact that they are losing track of the fact that Barrack has been rotating from the sidelines as opposed to just coming right down the stretch. And Elevate need to be a bit more aware of that. SJP picks up the kill onto Goodlad, though. And finally, a little bit of traction here. 2 down on the side of Flashpoint. Might be an opportunity to move through, but Shu has been critical in diverting some of that attention.
Ioni or B just walked straight into a Terminus, swing their axe. Terminus didn't even look at them right there, but just the edge of that cleave ended up catching them, and SJP is doing a lot of work on this Cassie, forcing out Prosper. Back comes Shu. This could be conversion opportunity. Elevator sitting at 3-2 right now. They might be about to take the series if they can get this payload going on through. There's only been one conversion in this set, including remakes so far on Bright Marsh, and that was Flashpoint right at the very beginning, Gabby. If Elevate can turn things around, this could be big.
They have plenty of time to do it, too.
And they've got 48 seconds. They've got the reanimate. That's huge. They're at 84% and rising for Furia within Flame. This could be the moment where they want to go in, but recognizing that Flashpoint, they're going to activate the Dragon Punch. They're using the Faith Light as well. They're chasing away their enemies. But have they burned too much too soon? As look at this. The re-engage is coming through.
Oh, landing a few shots onto Shu, but he's still alive. The Drogo's also going into the back line. The Legacy picks up the kill. Elevate losing one, trading it so far, but it's bad if Flashpoint end up taking this after getting all of their ultimates online. Atomic Boom with this ult right here to swing away, misses the hook though.
Oh, Goodlad barely able to hold on. Atomic Boom does shut them down, and Elevate, they backdoor it as Grover moves away from the payload. That's a bit of a mistake from Flashpoint. They'll be kicking themselves for that, but fortunately, they do at least move down to the lower bracket. They've got one more chance at pulling themselves back in as Elevate do take this best of 3 set in just 2 games.
It's that moment when Flashpoint are forced to use their ultimates because, hey, this is potentially game point, and then they didn't get all the kills that they need to. They got one here or there, but they themselves took too much damage.
I think they burned them too early.
Yep.
I think that's what it comes down to. They could have used the Dragon Punch maybe if they had Whirlwind up, and that could have been something to keep the Drogos alive, keep the Willow alive, and Faithlight if you hover in proximity to it. But lack of coordination comes on through right there, and this does make me wonder what if things might be a little bit different. I know this is still the roster for Flashpoint that did win the previous console wars back in May, but they're missing their main roster online player in the way of Swiper, and they've got Ioni or B subbing in, so do you feel that that might have made an impact here?
Because I feel like a lot of that loss was due to panic, and then from what we've learned, Swiper is very vocal within the comms and is able to keep a rap on the team, so that feels like what was missing. Not necessarily a play, it was a dissemination from the lack of communication. Dome shield when I'm about to die.
Big deciding factors, right?
Yep.
Where's that active stability and that force of stability within your team? And maybe that's something that Flashpoint can recover from. Maybe that's something which they otherwise might be able to go and end up falling to somebody like Vex from. But we want to ask you at home as well, with this poll in chat, who do you feel the MVP of this last game was? Was it the top damage SJP? Was it Cutie Shu coming through as well with some heals? And was it maybe, or Cutie Neil, was it maybe Cutie Shu rotating around with Buck? Let us know. For the time being, that'll do it for myself and Latigrus here. Back to Evan and Nick to round out this set.
Thanks, Vox and Gabby. Great cast there. Gabby in her first chair 2 ever, which is nice to see, so that was fun. And, of course, as we head into wrapping this set up, it was a best of 3, but 2.5 games were played. Elevate come out on top in the end.
Yeah, ultimately they are the better team, I think. That was their map pack. You got to keep remembering that when these best of threes come through, it's so important to be able to take your map pick. Both teams will get one, and then whoever takes game number one ultimately is going to get that game 3 if you get the loser's pick there. So map's very, very important to be able to lock it down all across the realm in these best of threes.
It does seem that Elevate are the team to beat on the PS4 side right now. Flashpoint didn't have the same level of spark that we've seen them have, especially in Game 1. So when you look at the totality of the set, far cry from what they showed us last time. But there's still hope. There's still plenty of time. Loser's bracket is a thing now, and it wasn't last to land for the console war. So that'll be a big introduction, and we'll be able to see them later on today, I believe.
That's the most exciting thing, because I think the most exciting storylines we've made across Paladins esports was out of those losers brackets.
Yeah.
You know, what do you do tonight when you go home to the hotel, you watch those VODs? What adjustments are made when we see you again tomorrow? And now these console teams finally have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and in fact, if my schedule's right, they might even be playing next, because I think it's the losers of 1 and 2 now playing next, and then we'll have the winners at the end of the day. So they're going to stay in their booths. They're going to actually wait and see if Vex can come over and give them at least a worse show, because they're the ones who want to advance. It's going to be Xbox and PS4 coming up very, very soon. Nick, just any initial impressions or thoughts as who do you think is going to maybe take that matchup?
Well, it's tough, right? Because you have, coming in cold, but you've played a game today, right?
Yeah.
So there's less and less of that argument, I think. You've also had, as Vex, the opportunity to dissect what just happened in front of you. But at the same time, you have your opponents. Flashpoint have been able to watch your games as well. So for me, it's on Vex. The ball is in their court to watch how Elevate literally just beat this team and try and replicate that as best they can with their champion pool.
Well, let's head to the bracket, see what that has to show us here for today. If you're just joining us on the broadcast, or maybe you've been watching, but you went to, get some food and totally forgot what was going on. I know sometimes that could happen.
Happened to me.
Yeah, happened to Nick.
Did a little interview. It was 3-0 in the game I was planning on watching.
He said, what? Well, that's how it's all panned out today. We've had 2 sets thus far. Elevate and Onslaught will be playing each other in the upper bracket. The loser's bracket is Vexed Gaming and Flashpoint a little bit later today. In fact, right after these short breaks where we're going to take a look at some gameplay, it's really, really close. I think I got to give it to the ability for Flashpoint to bounce back here in my initial impression, because of the fact that they're playing back-to-back, which I think helps teams, and they had big, big upsets, which I think, here's the question too, Nick. Does that upset throw them off, or are they able to? Sometimes that upset can be the biggest tool that they have going forward for the rest of the tournament. I know what we did wrong. We now move on.
I mean, it's NA back on top, right? So it's that question of how resilient can Europe be now? Was that a fluke for them to win that tournament, right? You look back at DreamHack Valencia when North America got their first win, and then they haven't won one since. You look at Vegas for Envious. They were able to do it for North America, coming out of the losers bracket, being very resilient and playing off that underdog momentum, which is really, I think, what was sparking Flashpoint in their victory last time in spring.
Well, overarching themes, both European teams are out on Xbox and PS4, but not fully out for the count. They'll play each other in the next matchup for today. But right now, we've got the winners of this PS4 set, Elevate, standing by for an interview.
Welcome, welcome then. We're here joined, of course, by a couple of members of Elevate who just took the 2-0 set over Flashpoint. And to start things off, guys, I want to ask you, you're facing up against Flashpoint. They took the last console wars back in May pretty handedly in the end there. How did it feel for you guys being able to take the first game on Fish Market so easily, 4-0? Was that a big confidence boost for you?
No, we weren't sure we were going to play Fish Market because we have never practiced the map, and we just went through it.
Yeah.
So in that last game, one thing that we noticed is it seemed like Flashpoint were in a bit of a panic mood in the second half of that game. I want to know, what are your thoughts on what might have allowed you to just infiltrate their composition?
I think it was mostly the fact that it was the pause that kind of affected that. They were very much thinking that it's already handily in the bag, but it was unfortunate that the glitch occurred. In terms of their panic mode, I think it was just mostly because of the fact that they were unsure of what we were going to bring to the table in terms of the first point fight of the second remake. And I think we caught them off guard with that. But I think when circumstances come to it, it was just nerves that also kind of caught on as well.
So panic and nerves on the one side of things. Elevate, though, you guys look cool as a cucumber. Is there any little tricks that you have for staying kind of cool in the heat of the moment like that? Does it help to have an extra voice in your ears when stuff like that's going on? Somebody reassuring you all that it's going to be okay, we're going to pull through this?
Yeah, I mean, we think of our teammates back on home. Tommy Jet, he couldn't come to LAN, so I'm trying to like support him a lot because he's a great player, and G Fuel, not a sponsor.
Gotta love the love that's shared between all the players in the console scene. Now, the con was very impactful, obviously, in game number 1, using ultimates in a very well-timed manner. So do you think that letting that pick through, was this something that got you really excited in what it would offer to the composition?
I think in general, Khan is perhaps one of the most flexible tanks in the game, kind of the jack of all trades, but really the master of all, because he just brings so much to the table. He brings stall, shielding, you have your heal, CC. It's just a lot of pressure you can apply to a team with just one simple pick. That being said, I think like when we got him, we were very excited, but at the same time, it's kind of a double-edged sword sometimes with Khan, because Double Blaster can really pretty much destroy him.
Fair enough, and with you guys taking that first set very handily then, we want to say congratulations and best of luck as you continue through the upper bracket. We'll see you back again to see how that really all closes out.
Shout out to Swiper.
All right, and welcome back, everybody, to the Console Wars Summer Finals here with Gormai's Vox. It's been a while since I've been on this side of the desk.
It's been a while since I last saw you.
If I'm a little rusty,
Since I could hold my head up high.
that's where we're going with it
Absolutely.
already.
Already.
Anyway.
You're the party boy. You're meant to be into this music thing, Gore.
I'm
trying
trying
to switch it up a little bit here.
I'm trying to be a little
Yeah?
professional now that I'm on this side of the desk. You know?
Need to. Well,
the angles matter, dude.
you're already in control of the desk. I see. Switching it up.
Anyway, so Flashpoint and Vexed is going to be the net we have coming up next. Flashpoint, you just actually got a nice in-depth look at them, and they
We
are
did.
not looking like themselves that we saw last LAN.
Definitely not. And, despite them having the same composition, the same team members as they had last time, with Swiper also not being at this one, 2 in a row, not such a good feel there. They feel unstable. They feel like they're panicking a little bit. And one thing which Gabriella the Tigress remarked on is the fact that Swiper's often been that kind of loud voice in the team, maybe a voice of stability at times. We saw some panic ults, we saw some panic reactions there, and Flashpoint need to find a way to stabilize right now. We'll see if they're able to have a bit more luck against Vexed in this set, and if they can get their emotions under control, or if they'll maybe suffer here and Vex can take a surprise win over them if they do end up being a little bit wobbly there.
Well, it's one of those things last game, or I guess last LAN actually, they were able to come in and they kind of had that binding of Swiper wasn't here, so they wanted to win the LAN for
Right.
him. It was something that I think unified the team. We're not really seeing, like you said, everything looked a little scrambled. There were ults that were being thrown out. Even their draft didn't feel like they were picking everything they wanted in the right order. They were giving up a lot.
Definitely not in the first game on Fish Market. I think that they had a much better draft the second time around as they went through into Bright Marsh, and before the remake we saw that it worked out very well, and even after that some good defenses here, a little bit less point control because that barrack does like to get set up and established. The one thing that keeps on coming through to me that I'm being reminded of, talking to the players before here, I'm hearing a lot about the fact that, Legacy is coming in, came into the sub last LAN, pulled out that 20-something in 0 KDA in the last game, and they've been bragging about it a little bit. There's a bit of ego going on here, folks. So maybe coming in and being stomped in the first game is having a bit of a hit here, and I wonder if Vex are able to capitalize on that.
It's one of those things you need to keep your ego in check. And
Very
seems
much
like
so.
if Flashpoint aren't able to get that under their belt, then they're going to have some trouble. But we did get a moment to catch up with Vexed and see how they were going to be feeling going into this next game and how they felt about their first set. So let's go ahead and hear it. All right, well, we're here with Vexed Gaming, and that first set, I don't think went the way that you really wanted it to, but you're going to be coming into this kind of refreshed. You've learned a little bit about LAN. Is there anything that happened in that first set that you're planning on bringing into this next one?
Honestly, the Vivian pick, maybe, because a lot of teams might be running double tank, even though we did see a lot of triple DPS. The Vivian's really good with the Saber rounds, obviously, for the shields. And they were running that into our Makoa, just solo tank, and it had a lot of value and impact on the game, so honestly, we might look to pick up the Vivian for ourselves or maybe even ban it at this point.
With Moji being clearly, I guess, an auto ban across the tournament, how has that affected the draft and the meta when you have a character like that goes from not really being a factor, not even really picked at the last event, except for like maybe a troll if somebody was way far ahead, to now being a permaban with nothing really changing about that character? Why is she permabanned all of a sudden?
It's such a huge comfort pick for like the NA team specifically. Like Elevate, they flex it a lot across their team. From when we've been scrimming them, they would flex it a ton, so we honestly let them have it for a long time in scrims, and then we just like might as well ban it because they literally just flex it between like 3 players, so it's like a huge pick for them, and they play it really well. So
they were running Toot all the time, and they're just constantly just running at them like with like a mini Grok ult almost, like heals and movement speed, just like, and you're just like panicking, like it's just, oh my god, no, it's just run down the middle and just shoot, and it's just so panicking.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you guys have done some reflecting. You have things figured out. So good luck in your next games.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, me, for the interview. And instant
How do you
transportation
see you
here
come
in the
back in?
studio.
Oh, you're getting good at that. You're getting fast. You're not even out of breath.
No, I've been working on the cardio a little bit.
Yeah?
Trying to shed some weight more or less, but it's good for the lungs.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Gore's working on some teleportation right now, and it's paying off indeed. But, Vex, they seem okay going into this. They don't seem too too hard on themselves after that first loss coming through. They're like, all right, might have a chance here going up against Flashpoint now.
It's in that area that we've kind of returned back to where we were, I want to think, in the past, where NA always tends to win when they go up against the EU sets, at least for console. And then now with double elimination, we get to see EU versus EU. The first cross-platform, we're going to have Xbox versus PS4 here, and we're going to Jaguar Falls first. There's honestly a lot, I think, that could open up. Flashpoint have shown some good picks for this, but Vexed seem, like you said, pretty nonplussed about their loss.
Vexed seem like ban Moji and will be okay here. The thing is, Flashpoint doesn't really play as much into that strategy. We saw them kind of take a bit more of a point hold composition previously, so we'll be looking to Vexed to play stuff like the Lian to be able to break this up, get a lot of early anti-heal coming through, and really make use of the space around Jaguar Falls. One pick that we haven't really seen so far, we've seen a lot of Willow coming through. We haven't seen any Pip. Do you feel like Pip has some value here on Jag Falls for console?
I mean, I feel like Pip is always going to be able to find value as long as, you know, you're jumping from the balconies. If you can use his movement properly, as well as just finding a good
just
evil
hit the
mojo.
evil mojo button. That's it.
That's all you really need. And I think this is a map with double Stigala, so it could be pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot of enclosed spaces here as well. I'd like to see it in the same way that Evil Mojo is the I win a teamfight button. Also, Lian has that kind of I win the 1v1 button.
True.
Unless you're maybe playing against damage reduction Buck. And Buck's been a big part of this actually for me in this set, as well as Cassie, that I really wasn't expecting to see coming on through. Especially after seeing Sir James Parker's performance on Elevate. That's a pick which maybe not ban-worthy, but is definitely worth keeping a lid on and focusing down. If you don't have flanks that can deal with her, she'll very rapidly make mincemeat out of your team, and it is Vex with first pick, first ban coming through. Khan taken off the table, unsurprising there. Flashpoint, though, they get rid of the Drogos, and that seems to be, you know, shots at world edit for me.
I'm actually really interested to see if Moji actually will make it through this time around.
First pick Moji, go on Vex, do it.
It's something that was mentioned that is very North American. And I always think of Wonderful, personally, when I think of it, just because Wonderful plays everyone like it's Ruckus, but you left Makoa.
Moji has, you know, 2 guns and a shield and a bit of movement. Moji is pretty much like a little mini Ruckus.
Small, like Ruckus.
Yeah, I guess, but bold. Maybe.
Well, Bolt's huge.
Yeah.
Ruckus is not.
And also, you don't ride along on the mount. We don't have that kind of the bad spray art. No, that'd be great to see. So Makoa picked up first by Vex. Moji open and Furia hovered by Flashpoint so far. Going into bank time here, they'll have to lock that in soon, but it's the Bomb King that they look to be prioritizing here, at least in terms of a hover, and that's an unusual one for console, but we know that this can work out very well in the confined spaces of Jag Falls. That Grumpy Bomb is very disruptive, so I'm looking for space control out of Flashpoint at this moment.
And I think this is big because they ban 2 blasters. They get rid of Drogos, they get rid of Willow, and they grab Bomb King. So you're like, okay, now you can go for Eevee, you can go in for a Pip.
That's a strong opinion there, Gore.
You just don't have too much. Like, I don't feel like Vexed have either of those really in their pocket. Pip maybe, but even then, you're kind of making a reach for something, so they're going to lose that a bit of blaster play.
So we have Buck and Nara picked up now for Vex as well. So the Buck pick, this is going to provide some of that flank pressure, some of the threat around the back that might be able to put some pressure on a Fury if she's caught out. And Inara as well. Vex know that now Fury is being drafted for Flashpoint. They can just get their other picks, the not supports online, and Inara's the point hold that they want to strip away from Flashpoint, take the legacy out of their comfort zone maybe, and look for that stability here to act as a backbone for their composition.
So Vexed has gone for something that I feel like I've heard, specifically Onslaught from North America, putting down is the double frontline. How are you feeling about Vex going for this?
I think it's a really interesting thing to do. I feel that this is more their cup of tea, with running a more static double frontline rather than the dive composition that tends to be more popular with North America. And also, Inara can be relatively disruptive towards the Terminus that's picked up as well here. Your Waters Field can be annoying for the Stigala to deal with unless you go into loadouts which specifically limit the amount of movement speed reduction you can have. And this is an interesting one as well. Vexed, one of the only teams here in the entire PCW that plays a lot of Maldamba. It's one thing which Lexi Zen picked up originally, but now their most recent addition to the team, their newest player, is apparently a god tier Maldamba, so I'm looking forward to what comes out of this.
I mean, you're talking unkillable. You got Makoa, Inara, Buck with Maldamba and Pip. A
lot
of healing.
Spot healing. Buck's just going to sit there. If Buck ever needs a heal, Pip's got your back. Pip heals himself when Pip throws out the healing potion. Everybody pretty much heals themselves apart from Makoa, and Makoa's got a big old Ancient Rage, so whilst Flashpoint, they've got the Bomb King and Cassie, they got a lot of damage here. They're not going to be able to sustain out this point very well. They picked up the Barrack in their last set, but it's actually the Fernando which is picked up instead, and I really like this. The amount of
viability that Immortal has in the face of this Evil Mojo, this Dread Serpent, keeping your team alive is huge.
And being able to go, I'm assuming, for some 70% cooldown reduction or crowd control reduction on
I
both of those
love
front
70.
lines, keeping
Can you
themselves
imagine the amount of fireballs that you'd be thrown out if you have 70% cooldown reductions?
1 second cooldown.
You're
Man,
like a
Brand is
red
perfect.
mage. Absolutely, folks. But oh my goodness, I'm really looking forward to this. For me, Flashpoint, they might have just got the edge with that Fernando pick, Gore.
There's a lot on the line here for both of these teams. It's going to be the first elimination we have coming in through this set. So let's see how game 1 goes. Number 1, Casters, take it away.
As you heard on the desk, one of these teams is going home for good, Vex and Flashpoint. Flashpoint, the previous LAN winners, but
Yeah.
who do you think is going to take it? Mixer Chat and you.
Yeah, well, I guess Mixer Chat, we care about your answer more than me, but I'll give my answer just in case. I think it's interesting. The Leon isn't picked up for Flashpoint. No picked, not banned. And then you also see the Furia compounded, or I guess countered by the Moldamba Pip. So taking 2 healers to deal with 1 who's pretty OP, I think that honestly it shows how good Furia is. I'm giving this one to Flashpoint.
That's the thing. When your way of balancing is by using 2 of your 5 slots to do so, it says something about that original pick. But Moldamba, this is also the first one that we're seeing of the day because we just don't generally see him as much on console.
Knock! He'll be playing the Moldamba. I'm wondering if he's using the Victorian skin. That's the best. That's my opinion. Possession 5, interesting, and eerie presence for just standard stuff, and really where he changes maybe the meta of it is going incorporeal 4. It's relatively high. We see Mending Spirits included quite a lot, especially when you have a Seagal like Inara that you're healing.
But this early rotation, first blood from Slapidopoulos, sending Anar towards the objective. Muzi Fernando zooming right by Narc, but standing on top of this Gordon, the frontliners rotating in a way to force this Nando back.
Great stuff there from Slop as well. He's just slipping and slopping all over this Jaguar Falls, allowing the Slippery Snake to actually stay alive because of that shell shield. So the alliteration, almost as good as the plays there from the front line.
Slapidopoulos sure seems super stoked.
Super slippery and stoked.
But hey, you can have lots of
About
fun with
his shell
his
spin.
neighbor. Yeah, oh man, I wish
Yeah.
the S in shell was a bit more. But 42% to 58%, Flashpoint taking a bit of the lead, but much more even than the earlier time when we saw with Vex. But Welsh Mania picks up the kill onto iGoodLad.
Looking comfortable. 2 as well in this buck, and see the recovery just keeping him alive despite the pressure. Gore's got to send me that 70% cooldown reduction deck for Fernando. I didn't know it existed, but Gore, you got to hit me up. I'll be copying your loadouts tonight. As a nice hook from Slapidopoulos. I mean, so far so good. Yeah, on the Switch as well, which I don't have. So it's going to be a nice, slippery, sloppy kind of day for me as Prosper Logic finally takes the slop down.
Yeah, slipping into the grave right there. Man, I'm running out of words.
Are
with
we doing?
S's.
Yeah, I mean.
There's only so many
How
that we can
long
integrate
we go?
into Paladins.
I don't know.
But I think there was one time where I went pretty far with alliteration in general,
Yeah.
a few console casts ago, but I don't know, might have to brush that off at some point. Either way, Vexed Gaming right now, with a minute and a half to go on this push, about 50% of the way. A couple ultimates available to them, but they're playing somewhat conservatively at this moment.
And I think the conservative notion is that these teams are going home. One of them is going home in this set, and that's what they know. Backs against the wall. So they have to do something here. 1 minute and 10 seconds. You know, as you mentioned, Gabby, it's getting close for them to make a play. And Ultimate's online. They have the Dread Serpent here and the Evil Mojo for Vex. So if things get bad, they can use this to stall out. But I don't mind them holding on to it here for a better opportunity.
Prosper Logic with a triple kill, though. I think a lot of that was punishing the same rotation taken by Vex on multiple occasions where they didn't get the Valley the first time or the second time, and on the third, Prosper said, oh, well, let me just stop them from doing this again.
Yeah, that left side is rough, and he doesn't use an ult to do it, and so that just means that there's a lot of peppering from iGoodLad, from Legacy, a lot of damage, just making these Vexed players lower than they would like to be if they are engaging onto a push. That's why that Dread Serpent, that Evil Mojo is going to be crucial to get one of these tanks down. And here's the King Bomb here from Prosper Logic trying to make it happen.
Gets the stun and blasted away.
Wow.
Welsh Mania eliminated Goodlad with a double kill, following up nicely a triple kill for himself. Flashpoint has triples all over the place. Final seconds of this potential push before overtime. But Vex, it's too difficult for them to recover.
I mean, this is an incredibly, I think, ideal King Bomb, because it's so hard to find value mid-team fight as overtime is ticking away, but slowly moving down. Prosper Logic has basically sacrificed an ultimate that rarely hits perfectly in a team fight to get a guaranteed defense, and I think that's the right use of economy and resources for Flashpoint here.
And he was able to buy so much time when he was on that bridge up there, because you noticed that Vex, they had everybody trying to find their way in, but they were getting poked too much by these bombs. And then as soon as he saw the opening with Good Lad rotating in the opposite direction, they just collapsed upon Welsh Mania and then continued.
When you talk about what we've seen today, the Victors, the Vivians, the Bucks, the Leons, they haven't introduced this kind of apex predator to counter that. You know, you put a Burmese python into a crocodile swamp, and you suddenly start to see a fight that isn't so one-sided. And that's when the Bomb King comes into play. The first time we've seen him played today, and Prosper Logic suddenly a potential apex predator to counter this buck out. It's not that easy for Welsh Mania to do what he was usually doing.
Pretty high in the prioritization is bans, and now finally coming through makes him fail. But Lexi picks up a kill onto I only op B, but the rotation continues. Reanimate bringing back to life, and also the Inflamed. Everything is coming out of the woodworks right now.
Oh, Bomb King with Inflamed. That's a little scary, and Pit knows it as well. He's trying around the corner. Prosper Logic hunts him down. Slopodopoulos slopping all over I Good Lad, and continuing the slippery slop with the shell spin to boot, and pops up the shell shield to try and stay alive, but it's just not enough. Flashpoint do a lot there to regain control.
60% for Flashpoint as they continue on to this objective. Vexed having to use some of those ultimates, but not being able to follow up. It was more of defensive use than anything. And they didn't get anything out of it except surviving a little bit longer. But Flashpoint at that 87 is going to get stemmed for the time being.
And we haven't seen the items in just a little bit, but it'd be interesting to see if he's running the Wrecker or the Cauterize here on the Bomb King. And it looks like he is running the Cauterize to better deal with that buck. But the time that Welsh Mania buys for the recovery around the rock, he picks up the healer, and then he ends up taking down Prosper. This is an incredible flank from him. He's made a ton of effort into this round to help his team get back in control.
And the way that it was actually really funny time the items coming up as 4 died on Flashpoint. It's like, oh, well, now you see that'll go to Gray. But here's the Buck Wild slamming some shots into Legacy, but turning the focus over to Storm Avatar and punishing Prosper Logic, throwing it back towards that flank Welsh Mania. But it is a 3-for-1 trade so far.
And Welsh takes just that round's MVP for me. He goes around the outside and, again, finds the healer, but then trades out and buys time. That's the most crucial thing. He gets the kill, but by the time you've already taken Prosper Logic off the point that long, he might as well be dead. He's not doing what you brought the Bomb King in to do. And with 2 minutes left, you know, Vexed Gaming looking good.
There's a nice kill for you onto Legacy. A bit of a trade, 2 down for Vex, but maybe the rest can hold it down. A nice wall to separate some of the damage that was coming from this defensive side, but Good Lad takes to this angle, forces Lexi to continue the retreat.
Prosper so good on this BK. It's the first time we've seen it today. I'm almost surprised. I mean, I really am that we haven't seen Bomb King out. And I think now that he's brought it out and he's had some success, this won't be the last time. 9-4. Wow. I mean, he's going off.
Oh, yes, and the ultimates
have been
well timed, but Vex still minute and 20 seconds to go right now. Inflamed once again on this Bomb King. It's just so strong, moving on forward past Anando, but gets punished by Narc, who just throws one back at him to finish off that kill. A Dread Serpent right behind Legacy, but he quickly recovers with that CC reduction.
I would imagine that's immovable in his loadout that allowed him to get that 70% reduction on the Fernando. Slopodopoulos finds a kill onto Legacy, and so his work has paid off for Vex. Those 2 kills he traded out with helped to just stumble and trick Flashpoint's defensive efforts, and now it's opened things up for the pit, but Vexed Gaming lose 1. I Good Lad looking to just make sure Narc goes down. That's both healers off the table, and this should be a decent defense.
Double kill for the man with the plan, and eventually gets shut down. But Flashpoint managing to hold on this defense. A nice hook. Slopodopoulos sliding into the side with such skill to pull in that Nando.
Why is his name so good to say?
I don't know, man. It's so much fun.
Gosh.
Gore and I just said Slopodopoulos.
Slopodipidopoulos.
It's so great. And that's what you just want to see him do, just so you can keep saying his name.
It's like Zippity Doodah, you know? People will always say Zippity Doodah, and it's like, it's onomatopoeia means nothing, but everyone just loves saying it.
I think Slopodopoulos sounds like a name that should be in a Dr. Seuss book.
Absolutely. And I'm a big Dr. Seuss fan. Is this this era's Zippity Doodah is Slopadopoulos doing something incredible with his name here.
He had it covered, everybody, but actually a bit of a fight breaking out right now. Slopadopoulos does get the double kill. Flashpoint losing a couple of them. Lexi with the follow-up right on top of this payload with the Gourd to keep them all alive. Welshmania, the Buckwild, gets right into the back line, onto the side with the hazard, and throws the shots in, but there's still survivability of the Terminus, who Shatter falls into the back.
And he doesn't have to reanimate. This is huge. King Bomb, Prosper Logic trying to save something, but Welshmania finds the kill at the end, Gabby, and this is looking really good for him to finish off iGoodlad. It's still overtime, and the rest of Vexed are trying their best to just push this an inch further to make sure they get that 2-point lead, and it looks like they can. Can Opbi get there? He can't. And it's a 3-1 push.
Snapping their knuckles on the front door there in the end. Welshmania off of that Buckwild dove so deep and got those kills nice and quickly where Flashpoint couldn't recover.
And you know what? I think now you just saw what I would like to deem as the slip and slop. Just the ability to be in defensive, and all of a sudden the biggest threat on the battlefield.
Sloppy slip and slide.
The electric slop, you know what I mean? And I think when you look at that, the way Dopoulos has been so effective for this team, not only in the early parts of that round where he found those 2 kills and actually offset the fight so that they were staggered, but towards the end, just knowing when to put that shell shield up. And you talk about the flexibility of a guy like Lexi's in, it's insurmountable in terms of the impact that it's having. And Flashpoint have to do something fast here. Prosper Logic already wasted the King Bomb. They're only working with an Immortal and a Cassie Scout.
Everybody on Flashpoint rotates towards the middle. Dread Serpent off to the side wall to break off Nando, but just seems to trickle right around it as Opbi collapses upon Slopadopoulos, who continues to hop into that backline. Seismic crash right into the back, gets a stun on a few of them, and Legacy goes down.
Oh, talk about a stun. Seismic, that was the level of impact that ultimate had from Inara. Lexi Zen shows up big again, and it's 45% and counting on the objective. Vexed Gaming looking to take game 1 unless some heroics can come through from Flashpoint, but just wait, they're 3% away from an Inflame. Maybe something can happen with a pickup here.
Oh, no, perhaps, but they only have a short window to do so. iGoodlad and Opbi picking up some kills, but Slopadopoulos rotating towards that flank on the side. 93% for Vex, but they have lost 2. It's a 2-for-1 right now, and Flashpoint start to gain a bit of control with that Inflame Storm Avatar putting in the work on support.
And it's weird. They've won the point fight, but they haven't. They've only taken down 1. 4 members still alive, and they've got to find a way to hold off, but stay available to be healed. They cannot go down off the poke, and that's it. Flashpoint buy enough time with the comeback mechanic, thanks to that 2-point lead, that it's not even a question of will they hold. They hold right away.
And Nara ain't got no mobility to get there in time and punish. You saw, that's always, I feel like, one of the sassiest. Vex, first of all, losing pretty much everybody right now. Delayed is for them. So Flashpoint can easily capitalize and get past one of the most difficult choke points on this. But it's always so sad when you see Inara trying to get to the point you know she has no way of actually speeding herself up. Yeah. I'm like, well, we're just racing the clock.
Let's not kid ourselves. Inara's nobody's first pick in a 100-meter dash, okay? Yep. Not representing me at all. But she does well at holding her ground, and that's what they needed to do.
When she's there.
When she's there, right, if she can get there. Lexi Zen does a good job in the earlier rounds, but the Inflame ends up doing what it needed to do, buying space, buying time, forcing them away for long enough for that comeback mechanic. Increased capture objective to take their way.
Flashpoint capitalized so much off of that teamwork that they had gotten previously. A lot of times when you're wiped that early, it's not as punished, but World Edit with a couple kills, starting to rotate towards Goodlad again. Cassie getting caught out, hoping that Legacy can hold him, but World Edit still keeps himself alive and now punishing Nando.
World Edit. I was going to say, you better be coming strong with that Rex spray, and he shows up. He fights tooth and nail with only a 10% of his health for most of that and trades out with iGoodlad and buys his team another probably 20 seconds of defending.
It just felt like you had Goodlad and then you had Nando standing behind, where he looked like the bodyguard standing behind who he's supposed to be guarding, as opposed to actually walking in front and putting his body in between, which ended up not working out very well for them. Legacy losing health once again. The Inflamed just a bit, but Lexi is the one to fall immediately after.
Light of Dawn. That's the shield card for Furia. That broke off very quickly, and maybe just take a look at the items one more time to see who is building Wrecker. on the side of Vexed Gaming, and it does appear that Slobodopoulos is. So he's the one who's getting into the front line and trying to burst down whoever's getting healed. That Furia shield will melt with a Wrecker 3 from Slobodopoulos. Remember, it scales off your base damage, which is 650 for Makoa, so that's 175% of basically 650. That's a ton of extra damage, nearing over 2,000. So that shield should go down.
Flashpoint hoping to tie this up as a 3-3. If they don't get the point, it's okay. Vex cannot win off of the defensive, but still, the reanimate, throw it up the shield with the inflamed as well. Flashpoint using all their ultimates right now, which is a very risky thing to do, but they take out 2 and lose 1 to make that 3.
It is risky, but they've got the Furia alive, and now World Edit has to go make a play. He knows the Furia is keeping them here in this fight, and the Pyre Strike with a little bit of damage from Goodlad ends up saving the day there, and it looks like that there's just one member, Welshmania, fighting his best, but it's a Buck, and it's a Makoa, and it's Slobodopoulos slipping and slopping all over this defense, and I wouldn't give it to anybody just yet.
Luckily, Slobodopoulos able to slide into the middle of the opponents, but Prosper Logic, Goodlad picking up a kill before getting that immediate trade. Overtime still going on, but you see the HP bars too low. Nice cleanup from World Edit, throwing down the fire, and it's Flashpoint pushing it through after getting all those kills.
Wow.
That was really risky.
And you know what the difference is? Storm Avatar stays alive the entire fight. And that's the difference. Those Pyre Strikes were huge, not necessarily because of the stuns they achieved. Those were impactful, but because of the damage they applied as well. It's not insignificant. And when you have somebody who's a Furia, the reason she's so impactful is not just because of the healing, it's the damage presence she provides. You might as well have, like I said, a Genos who's running Star Splitter as his talent. It's a hit scan weapon that will do 3,000 damage to you if you're not paying attention over 5 seconds.
So even though Storm Avatar is getting outpaced by Narc in healing, I think Furia, because she offers so many other elements, that's what makes her great. She can heal a lot, but she can apply the damage, the stuns, that ultimate that comes in the clutch when needed. But Prosper Logic rotates to the side, chunks down about 40% of Slobodopoulos, who pops the ultimate just to keep it going, but it's Welshmania that ends up falling.
Not a fan of the Poppy Bomb there. It puts him in a very precarious spot, and he has to have things go his way, but the aggressive plays, that's what Prosper's known for. Can he and the rest of Flashpoint turn this thing around? It's 3-3. I only op B with 210 health to his name. Somehow he's still alive. The Shadowfall up and over the wall. 146 health. He's going to make it out, Gabby.
But it's Flashpoint that have the 54% right now. Vexed Gaming had to turn it around if they want to keep this in it. It's the last point, do or die for game number 1. Welshmania down to 100, down to 0, and Flashpoint ready to punish that completely as Storm Avatar sticks by the team.
And look at that, 7% on one heal. That was insane. Yeesh. And she basically puts her front lines in a position to win this. She already used an Inflame once in this fight. Will she be able to use another one? It's World Edit to the back line. The stun! And it doesn't save Storm Avatar, but it does enough to allow Prosper Logic to find a double kill and looking to find more.
Completely punished, 99%. Overtime settles in, but there are only 2 alive for Vexed Gaming. Maldaba can't make it back in time, and Prosper Logic, he is on fire on this Bomb King. Welshmania, too much damage from that AoE, falls once again, and Flashpoint put themselves in a great position with these stuns too to completely shatter those HP pools, and Flashpoint keep themselves in.
And you see the excitement. It is all apparent on their faces. The relief, just the pressure that was mounting in that 3-3, the comeback in those situations, and you know, hands on your face. I don't believe it. Wake me up. Is this real? Is this a fantasy? It was a great comeback here from Flashpoint. They prove why they were Last Land's champions.
It looked as if they were holding their breath the entire time, and then once it said victory, they finally, now I can breathe again. But then it's always that contrast you see between the team that just won, the team that lost, especially when it's that 4-3 battle.
Yeah.
Because Vexed, they know these best of threes, the difficulty with them is it's so much easier to capitalize upon that victory in game 1, because then you immediately have that feel of, okay, we're just one game away, just one game away.
And that's what they are, one game away from knocking out Vexed Gaming here in this tournament and moving on. Remember, the loser goes home. And for Last Land's champion, you don't want to go home after losing 2 sets in a row. Who do you guys think, though, is the champion? Because, you know, in my ideal world, you give it to all 5 players on Flashpoint, but I think Prosper Logic takes it with the Bomb King plays towards the end. Just super impactful, but there's so many players it could go to.
Great ultimates, great positioning, just great overall play. But that's game number 1 of the set, and I want to know what the devs thought about it.
that was a roller coaster. I think the best word to really describe a lot of what Flashpoint was able to do in terms of fighting back was just inflame.
Pretty much. I'm looking at this game going, all right, so quite how big is the backpack that Prosper Logic and Storm Avatar seem to be sharing? It's open it up, put everybody in, go, all right, guys, you're going to stun them with a Pyre Strike. I'm going to go and grab Bomb King, stack up the sticky bombs, and do the thing. And Prosper really was the entire reason for me that that team was able to hold on at times. It was a lot of enabling there to allow Prosper to kind of be free as Bomb King, but a lot of pressure coming out as well. But really, it was just the fact he was able to find these really clutch kills.
And there were, I mean, a few notes that I took before we got to see them with the comeback mechanic start enabling things that were all downsides to Flashpoint. They're throwing out reanimates that just don't look that good, and Inflame that only hits Terminus.
Yeah, the Inflame that only hits the already reanimated Terminus. When there's a Bomb King trying to ult in, 2 seconds later, there's a lot of lack of coordination, and maybe that was actually the catalyst which Flashpoint needed. To be fair, sometimes it takes a critical situation to catalyze your team into doing something better, which is communicate the fact that I'm respawning. Please don't use your ultimate yet. Please, let me use the ultimate. But it turns out, Gore, that we do have an MVP result in.
It's not Prosper Logic, but it is going to be Good Lad. And either way, I think, like Evan said, all 5 members of this team did phenomenal. So not too surprising to see that switched over. And it was the Cassie of
course
all
it was.
things. And it's one of those things. I mean, if you have 2 people who are fragging out, then give it to one of the 2. Cassie played phenomenal that game.
And Good Lad was a big part of why Flashpoint also were able to counterplay the Buck a lot. We've seen Cassie, especially with the Impulse talent, be a very strong threat against a lot of these flank champions. We're going to, just for the sake of semantics, folks, we're going to call Pip a flank with the way that they're playing this game. And if they jump into the backline, you're able to take away most of their health pool, at least over half, with an Impulse shot and a regular weapon shot from Cassie. So you can do a lot of work there. And even if you don't get the kill, you force them to disengage. And that then opens up space. There's less pressure coming through from the rest of the team. And then Prosper is able to go on in and go ham. You're able to stick your Terminus on point, and you're able to slap about around the Inara, and the Inara's like, well, I'm not getting any positive pressure from my team, so I got to retreat.
When you look at the Moldama's healing numbers towards the end of the game, kind of upwards, around 200,000 was where it was approaching. Yeah. Then you look at the 151,000 damage coming down from Cassie. There's a 50,000 net worth of healing. Take the Bomb King out of there.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how just uncontested these Cassies have been through the previous couple of sets. That Elevate set, especially with Sir James Parker playing Cassie, and now seeing as well just what Flashpoint are able to do with it. It's a really strong power pick. And it's something which I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of coming into this LAN, having the chance to talk to Vex. They value Lian a lot because of the amount of anti-heal which Death and Taxes grants you. However, it looks like just the sheer amount of damage which Cassie grants you is really what's kind of maybe being the flavor of the month or flavor of the LAN here.
Well, a lot of questions for map number 2. One is whether or not Vex can show up because their backs are against the wall.
My main question is where we're going, honestly. Okay, Bright Marsh. All right, will the backs be up against the wall? Will they do the thing?
Will they be able to come back? Flashpoint again, I mean, the ones who were able to win last LAN, and they just are not looking fully the same. There's still ults that I'm iffy on, still things I'm kind of questionable, but that was a win, and I think that was much needed for their morale.
My more important question here as well is, will we see the Moji?
I feel like it's a North American thing.
I feel like it is as well, but if Flashpoint, they're already up 1 game, they're feeling confident, they definitely look like they had a heavy hand over how Vex were playing in that last capture objective, in that last push. This might be an opportunity for them to do a bit of experimentation with it.
A lot, I think, that they have that they could really traverse for this map. I mean, honestly, if you're going to go back to anything from the last game, I'm personally feeling that Bomb King one more time. You're warmed up on it.
I can
this is a good map for him, and I think this would be a good opening sport, but Vex have first pick once again.
And Flashpoint did previously prioritize the Drogos and the Willow here, but I feel like with World Edit being such a renowned blaster on the side of Vex, you kind of got to take those away. That's what Flashpoint did on Jag Falls. They took away the Drogos and the Willow, and they might be looking to do that again. Vex, they have the first ban here, probably going to take away Khan. That's what seems to be the normal ban on a lot of maps with environmental hazards, and even though it's not many, Bright Marsh still does have 1 or 2 or 3, but around the objective. But no, it's actually the Vivian pick which is taken away here.
I think this is something that, again, it's very Flashpoint specific, Onslaught specific, console specific. Vivian has been very big, especially against things like Makoa. Get rid of the shield immediately.
Zap around. It's brilliant. You don't have to invest into Raki. You can go straight into Cauterize. You just deal so much damage against those shields, and you bring a lot of efficacy right across the board. Sure, there are certain Vivian talents like I do more damage the longer I shoot, which sound great on paper, but being able to get rid of those paper-thin shields, the shell shields, the Khan Bulwark, is so useful here. Vex, they do have the next ban coming up, Gore. If they're taking away the Vivian and then Drogus' banned, they're probably, yeah, there we go. There's the Khan ban coming through as well, and that's just kind of the staple ban. Vex are probably looking for a different first pick priority. but they respect Khan enough to make sure that it's not taken as a second pick by Flashpoint.
It's in this area. Both blasters once again taken off the board by Flashpoint.
Do Vex
so
go
again,
here and take the Bomb King, honestly?
I think you kind of have to. Otherwise, Flashpoint are going to scoop it up. They looked really good during that last game with it. Prosper Logic was indomitable on that if you gave him the right moments. And Makoa getting locked in didn't seem to do as much I think the Vexed wanted him to.
That's a loadout card, I'm pretty sure.
Indomitable?
Yeah.
It's also a snowman.
No, that's Abominable.
Right.
You're thinking of Insurmountable, which was an old Fernando loadout card. Back when we had a Crestian in the game, folks, and you could still mount up and go around on your horse, a little bit like Realm Royale right now, but will Flashpoint switch things up? Will it be the Bomb King again? I'm expecting it to be. The success, as you said, Gore, really drove them ahead. Honestly, they can go Bomb King Cassie here and just get these 2 big damage dealers.
And with the way things went, we saw even early on that you don't need to prioritize your front lines as much between these two. Not going to grab the Cassie. They get the Buck, who I think is still, again, strong on this map. But Bomb King is the big star for me right there.
Right, and both of these champions, Bomb King and Buck, have verticality in their kits. They can get to this high ground. When we were watching Vex and Elevate was so critical in controlling the span of the fights. It allows you to pressure the enemy support. It allows you to control a lot of space. And then once you kind of get rid of everybody around the outside of the fight, that's when you collapse onto the objective. Vex here, they got a couple of options. They can try and match this high ground with maybe something like a Pip and somebody else here to be able to get up. Or they can invest fully into going, well, we're going to go and pick the Grok in the barrack and we're just going to sit on point and there's nothing you can do about it. Fernando's open as well, and Nara's open. There are a lot of options here.
I'm going to grab up the Furia, and again...
I guess she exists.
I think the first time I see Furia, there's now 2 champions that come to my mind that you want on the other side. Either Vivian, who's going to be banned out, or Leon, who has been huge against it. Just depends on how Flashpoint are feeling. They already have the Bomb King.
Oh, look at this, though. It's double support so far for Vex, and this screams to me saying, Flashpoint, take the Cassie, take the Leon, take something with inbuilt anti-heal, because you're going to need it to be able to deal with the amount of healing coming out of Vex. And we could see some interesting play. We saw a lot of damage Genos at the previous console wars land from, of course, these console teams, but the big difference in Luminary this time around is that Luminary no longer provides Genos with increased self-damage, and as a result, your frag viability, your fragability, a little bit less fragalicious here.
They go instead.
Double Stigala.
Both the Stigala,
oh,
Nara
please.
Terminus.
This is, oh.
I just want to see, honestly, out of all of this, I just want to see cleaner reanimates, and I think that gives Flashpoint a huge advantage.
See, this is strange. Vex are going back into the Cassie, they're going to the Zin, it's double Stigala here. I'm sitting here fanning myself because I think this could be an opportunity for maybe a Tyra to come out, but honestly, if you're running Zin here, this to me screams guillotine. It screams big health pools, charge your ultimate fast, just deal with maybe the Buck, maybe the Grover, maybe it's one of the front lines. Everybody on Flashpoint is a beefcake with over 2200 health, so having the ability just to get rid of them off the board immediately, unless there's maybe a whirl run around, super useful. I'm not sure how I feel about the Grover here, but honestly, with a compact map like Brightmarsh, I prefer it over any other pick left.
Well, it's do or die now for Vexed Gaming. They have to win this if they want to stay alive in the tournament. We'll go ahead and throw it over to the casters and see how it goes.
Apparently, it's Vex versus the Beefcakes.
You know, never doubt beef at this state of the game. There's way too many cows. There's way too many just beef organisms out here that I would not bet my money on anything versus beef.
So do you think it's the protein-packed team that's going to take it, or Vexed, I don't know, a clever way to counter the vegans?
I would be Vexed as well.
Vegans
yes.
Versus the
vegan Vexed, or the beef cake
What
flashies.
is your preference? So this isn't really a question of who you think is going to win. It's, are you a meat person
Are
or
you
not?
a meat person or not? Well, you know, I'm a protein guy, but at the end of the day, you can get it from your vegan diet or your high beef diet. It's not, you know.
Just got to plan it out, right?
Depends what you want, what you like. You know, they all come with a little bit of something. I'm not judging.
Whatever floats your boat.
I'm just
what
eating.
You're
I'm not judging.
Flavor.
Yeah.
We had some lasagna, which is kind of a mixture. You can go vegan or not.
Yeah, you
can
could
go with the beef.
The lasagna is flexible.
Yes.
That's Italian and Spanish in the same sentence, Gabby.
I like it. But I also like this starting positioning from both of them, taking somebody straight to the top to see who can duke it out.
And this is really where things get bad. I mean, you see the damage reduction. It didn't matter much. Whirl Edit just gets to the back line. And, you know, that Whirl probably a little bit off of where he wanted to end up, but doesn't get punished, and so is able to run Riot. And if you can let a Zen run Riot on any map, anywhere, that's going to be a win for you.
Look at the way he's just rotating once again. Storm Avatar right into his face with a hit me, baby.
The Vine of Time. Bet you can't hit this shot. Bet you can't hit this shot.
Oh, you hit the shot.
You hit the shot. 75% for Vexed Gaming, still Gabby, double kill, and I think we're seeing the problem, right?
World Edit is being allowed to do whatever he wants right now, which is putting the rest of the team on the objective. 99-100. Vex pick up the first point with no deaths whatsoever on their side. Already 402, make that 502 on the stat line for the Zen.
Oh my. So that looked like Guillotine. So is he actually running Guillotine as his talent? I was thinking potentially it was Yomi, but we've only seen these long-range shots, these last shots, the third hit, actually very up close. So we don't know if it's been passing through or not. So that is a Guillotine. And that is going to put World Edit in a great position to deal with these two Stigala.
Which is also, when you see the hook come out from Makoa and World Edit is paying attention to that, it's a death sentence immediately.
Yeah.
Just a completely obliterated, down to 0 HP. Right now, down a Bomb King as well, as Vexed are 144 left on the clock, but have made it to about the 75% mark.
I mean, a lot of people try to get Torvald and Zen. They liked Genos and Zen. Why not Furia and Zen and have both?
And right now with the Inflame, there's through time and space down the sideline, swinging away here at Good Lad, but he has that sustainability. Prosper Logic,
Nice
King Bomb immediately
try.
following the one kill, but gets another one onto World Edit. So hopefully that slows things down on the roll.
Yeah, that's my good defense but better offense type reference right there, because World Edit tries to play defensive. He jumps up. He doesn't have the billow, so he knows the way he can get away is line of sight break and whirling to create the distance. But Prosper Logic catches him right on the edge and finds the ultimate kill. That's what Flashpoint need here. Just a stabilization. Get themselves in a position where we say we've got the Zen down. We know he is with fault, not perfect. And so that will, I think, open things up here on the defense for them.
The support, Furia, Lexi, taking back this role when you have the double support and you have somebody that used to main support, then you can just put him on Furia, and it works so well. Getting 2 kills, taking out the enemy Grover, opening this up once again for Vexed. A little bit of a lockdown from the Inara in the side cubby, but World Edit able to keep himself safe and re-divert his attention.
30 seconds left. That's all they have, and they're 90% of the way done. So this is always good. Imagine having an essay due 30 days from now, and you've already written 90% of it. It's pretty easy to assume you'll get the rest. Yeah, that was never me. I'm definitely speaking hypothetically there. That was not my process.
But Narc, I don't know if he was that kind of student, but he did get 2 kills right now. Helped Vex push this through, and it's 2-0.
With that many that many A's and R's in his name, I'm gonna guess no. I'm gonna guess no.
Well,
efficiency in saying Narc doesn't feel to be applied there.
Maybe if you had to, let's say, write 10 pages and he just used extra letters to make it longer, and that's why he goes with
he was the
Narc.
guy who extended the sentence by saying nothing. Like, throughout the examination of this, we can see by looking closely at this examined piece of information that there is something to be seen here.
I knew somebody that would, if you... I don't know, nobody, this isn't me encouraging anyone to use this, but they would take, if
Gabby.
it was 12 font, and they would take all the periods and spaces after that, and then make that a bigger font.
You're kidding.
And it would extend it like a page.
That's high-level strats.
Yeah, so Charles, like, that's...
I know about the aerial strat. That's about all I do. Times New Roman, switch to aerial, you get about half a page for you, baby. That's all I'm working with.
Combine them, and then what happens?
Yeah.
Flashpoint trying to combine all their resources with this whirlwind to set up the rest, but it's I Only Op B who ends up falling. Vexed picking it up, stopping that 19%, and the seismic crash right down the center, but the billow to escape.
And I see why he uses the billow, but that's more valuable later on. He could have used the counter there, and he opts not to, but immediately is on the offensive, so that's going to buy World Edit some time for his cooldowns. Meanwhile, though, Prosper Logic in the backside of this fight. So what can he do to toil with Vexed Gaming's current plans?
There's the reanimate. World Edit ready for it, though. Swings once again, and the guillotine stops him from doing anything else in this fight. 30% to 54%. It's that comeback mechanic, though, for Flashpoint.
It certainly is, and that's why they have 2 Stigala, but they only really have 1 with the way that World Edit has just been so consistent. I'll say it and say it again. If this Zen can keep running Riot, it is going to be GG's from here on out, but still plenty of Paladins left to play on this map.
Still, everyone rotated off of the objective right now because of those coming back from spawn, and almost just an attempt to dismount them as soon as possible, even though they were fairly close. And then now with Flashpoint pushing into the sideline where Welshmania could turn this or get caught out.
But this is big. He's bought so much time. I mean, this is another 3 seconds. He's got to go to the recovery, and he may not even get this kill. Welshmania again gets out, but he finds Good Lad in the process, so 99% and counting. World Edit is here. He has almost bought enough time and enough damage for another guillotine. Remember, he's charging this ultimate faster, but he doesn't have the time to use it, and I don't know whether he gave up or whether he just got distracted. But Flashpoint walk away with that one. Happy they didn't have a Zen to contest.
In the end, Buck, it was 2 for 1 right now, so even though he died, he still took one down with him. He was distracting everybody. Vexed eventually lost 4 of their players, and Flashpoint just went and captured with that comeback mechanic. Now it's time for them to push a hook right here, but Slopadopoulos gets, well, slopped.
He gets slopped, that's for sure. The old slip and slop. And Lexi's in with a questionable inflame.
Interesting.
And he's dead. Yeah, that was questionable in my opinion.
Why do you think that he would opt for something like that?
That was a panic. I don't think he knew what was going to happen. Sometimes you have to inflame hoping for the best. Hey, I hope that we get this kill that I'm watching my teammate actively engage in. If that doesn't work, if the pressure continues, it's not enough time to just be a get out of jail free card. Pressure there will still be pressure after your ultimate if you don't somehow, in those 2 seconds, take the advantage map.
Oh, there's a seismic crash, though, and through time and space. Nobody gets clipped, though, with that counter. About 1:20 on the clock. Bomb action has to billow out of it. Good Lad wants to be in pursuit of the enemy. There's a whirlwind, too. Getting a nice heal onto Inara. Lexi eliminated, and Good Lad going for the Slopadopoulos.
And Lex, you know, having a little bit of a rough 30 seconds here. And it's not often you say that because he's been so consistent for them. But now it puts Slopadopoulos without a healer, and he's being aggressive. And now Welshmania, the only hope that he has is to use his loadout. Hopefully his somersault reset, but not when he's crippled. He can't dodge. Storm Avatar, beautiful play in isolation. Knowing what Grover's kit can do and how impactful that cripple can be means it's a full wipe on Vexed Gaming.
So many headshots from that Buck, too.
Yeah.
He just circled from one to the next. 35 seconds go, but it doesn't even matter. They don't need it.
And the Warder's Field, Gabby, he tries to drop down and shell spin in there, but he falls and is crippled again. The crippling blows, the crippling throws. I think we see how this crippling goes if you're able to reference.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows where the crippling goes. But I can tell you what happens when Zen is able to do what he wants.
That's the thing with this match so far. That last push shows you how competitive it is, because a lot of times when it's one-sided and a team wins a point off of comeback mechanic, they usually struggle in the push a lot. And you think, okay, that was all because of the comeback. But then in this case, Flashpoint, they use that to their advantage and then push through very effectively. And going into the next round, they only have basically 2 ultimates up for themselves. But on the opposite side, you're facing off against 3, one of which, though, isn't necessarily a game changer.
Welshmania with the Master Riding is a notable pickup, and he's got the Scout too. So this is most likely for if he dies early, which he knows he's relatively being aggressive. He's getting targeted in these fights. If he can go down early, he can get back to engage still when it's still a 4v5 and help his team out. Flashpoint, though, doing a good job of pushing back 27% on the objective thus far, but here's a little bit of a flank from my Good Lad.
It's really nice when you can get healing from 2 supports as Welshmania and just go right up to full HP. 45%, and Flame comes out for Vexed. World Edit needs to find a great angle onto the enemy team. Sees Legacy in sight, but knows that's a lot of HP to burn through, and a Bomb King rotates, forces the billow out of him, but then he runs into Reanimate, so he has to run right back out of the room and says, where do I go at this point?
But he gets his health back, and that's important, and this is where Welshmania can make his money. Earn your paycheck. World Edit finds a nice spike there with the guillotine, and now it's Welshmania who finds the other one. There's the Scout for the second time in this fight, giving him the movement speed, the CC immunity. Cripple me now, he says to Grover, trying to slip the stream, find a little bit of the damage on iGoodLab, but it's enough at least to poke them back and give Vexed Gaming the control of the objective.
The protection that was had for Buck ends up getting hooked out of it, but luckily for him, the rest of the team had spawned up in time. In the end, though, it's Vex that's still staying on the point, 81%. Everybody from Flashpoint is way too far right now, where they would have to force it in a very panicked manner to be able to contest that. They recognize it and instead decide to hang back to set themselves up for the defense.
And the problem with this lineup is there's just too much uptime on the Zen, and it's too close of a map. Everywhere he goes, he's allowed to do damage to someone else, because that's just the way Bright Marsh works. One corner, you're fighting the support. One corner, you're fighting the front line. You know, you're in the back line in 2 seconds, and because he's got this Genos mark on him. You're adding the extra damage of Luminary on top of what should be a lesser hard-hitting Zen because he's running Guillotine. So he's not losing much, and he's so healthy. It's a very, very difficult lineup to overcome here.
All of his ults have been extremely valuable, and then swinging away, keeping himself alive as long as possible. Slopodopoulos pulls one back, and IonlyOB starting to collapse alongside Legacy onto this enemy frontliner.
Slopodopoulos was dead to rights. He has been getting Furia healed non-stop, and it takes an ultimate from Storm Avatar to at least get his front line out of the issue. I mean, the value of Furia and Genos. We don't see these two paired very often, but when they are together, it's an overwhelming amount of damage.
That's why you almost have to really heavily lean on them when you see one is up and somebody's still not getting healing. You think, you have two.
Yeah.
You don't have an excuse. You have Furia, you have Genos, but because of how aggressive those supports can be, it's so nice how they can offer that in tandem.
I mean, it's just the best of both worlds. You get the damage amp, you get the burst heal from the Furia and Cherish, and then you get the constant heal from the Genos. I mean, what else do you want as a damage carry? World Edit and Welshmania, 16-5, 10-6 for a reason. This is enabling them to do what they're doing here. It's a really well-constructed lineup from Vexed, and it needed to be. Backs against the wall here. The defense is looking pretty solid after that rough start, and it could go to a 3-3, Gabby, and it's just 1 point away from Vex being knocked out.
A little bit of a 1v1 over here as World Edit and iGoodLad face off against one another, but instead decides to back off of that situation. 30 seconds to go, still contesting Prosper Logic, punished by Welshmania, but is thrown back by Storm Avatar.
So clutch with those crippling throws. He knows Welshmania wants to dodge, roll out of that, and get away with murder, but he doesn't allow her to. And now into the cripple. Goes World Edit, but he takes Inara, so Legacy is down. Doesn't matter much. This could be it. 10 seconds left. All Vexed Gaming have to do is push this 50% of the way, which is relatively short on Bright Marsh, and they've got themselves a Game 3.
And they're already on that high ground positioning. Forces IonlyOB to drop to the low, but he is low in HP as well. Gets healed up, luckily, from all of that support tactic, but World Edit rotating around with the Billow. You saw the hook come in. Slopodopoulos ends up on the bad side of that trade, though. Vex losing 2. Overtime continuing. Flashpoint way aggressive right now.
And this is really good body blocking, and Legacy does his best to keep Storm Avatar alive, but it still ends up being the damage from World Edit and Welshmania to find the support. It's not enough. And if you're Vexed Gaming, you are not happy because you are 1 point away from out.
That's what they need. They need that comfort of just closing that game right there because it's so much pressure. This 3-3 point fight situation, you never really want to be there when it is your last opportunity to stay in because that's where the panic can come in. We've seen some of these teams allow that to influence their gameplay.
Now they use the spike, but that doesn't mean World Edit can't be effective. He's going to buy some time. Flashpoint have to approach this like this. World Edit is not a problem till he's a problem. We need to focus down somebody we can actually kill, or if we see him, we have to immediately burst him so that he's forced to use all of his defensive cooldowns. Then we know we can take a fight normally without the Zen approaching us or taking down one of our Stigala. I think you send one of your front lines out and don't keep both of them on the point, and that's what Legacy's trying to do. He's going around this right side, but an early Inflame, Gabby, sets things up for a potential big fight here from Vex.
Immediately in response to the hook, World Edit finding an Inara. The wall blocks him, so he finds another target instead. IonlyOB a little too chunky to break through, so it's back to the Inara once again. A nice slice. Can he get the second Stigala? Almost so close, and there it is. But the Reanimate is available if he wants to bring it back. Decides not to.
Oh, what a poppy!
Oh, that might save
what
him,
a poppy!
but still danger.
And that's beautiful. He gets him out of danger, and he goes away from the line of sight, and just in the nick of time, Grover with Efflorescence, Storm Avatar, my MVP here for this game. Incredible healing, incredible crippling throws, saves Prosper Logic's life, 30% now, and it's all down to the wire.
That through time and space, so was focused just for Prosper Logic with one last hit to take him off. IonlyOB and the good lad holding it down for the team, though. 72%. Here's the Reanimate and the Ancient Rage. Slopodopoulos backing out of this fight for the time being, but that could cost you if you don't rotate in time. Must touch onto the point, and he does so far.
And I like the Reanimate, but can he get World Edit? Forces the Billow, and now Slopodopoulos is by himself. Wait, did I say by himself? He's with Furia. He's with World Edit, who's back. He's got Narc. Vexed Gaming trying to pull this one back, and Storm Avatar going down first in that fight could have been the crucial mistake for Flashpoint.
Oh no. Yes, this leaves such a great opening for Vex to the point where they just leave Narc on the objective and the rest venture forward. World Edit picking up that kill. Here's the Inflamed again. Is this going to be enough to change it? Another great ultimate from the man on the Xin as they attempt to close it, and Vexed Gaming pushing this to a game number 3 in this set.
And now you can smile. Now you can relax because you've
they have
tied
the
it
same
up.
bases as Flashpoint did
Yeah.
during game number 1. Whew.
Yeah, hands up in the air, smiles. You could see it from all the boys over there. And now Flashpoint knowing they had an opportunity to close it out. I mean, that's match point. And they break serve.
It's really, really tough when it goes both ways, right? Vex, they needed to win it to keep them in it.
Yeah.
But then Flashpoint, you were one away from progressing yourself within the bracket, where if you end up losing game 3, it feels really bad because you were just that close.
It's really indescribable sometimes being so close to win and then yet having it taken away from you. It can feel like almost a net negative because of the fact that you had an opportunity and you let it slip out of your hands. Who do you think is the MVP in that game? Obviously, Vexed Gaming takes that one. In my opinion, I think you have to just look at moving into game 3. How do they bounce back from having this moment potentially slip out of their hands? You know, hopefully they take the mom spaghetti approach and they realize this is their one opportunity to make something happen. It's do or die at this point.
And what map do you go to? These are very typical maps that you see game
True.
1, game 2. I want to see how things are going to go down in game number 3. Desk, did you expect this set to go the distance?
It was definitely a nail biter. That was really,
really
close
was.
at the end.
And Flashpoint, they tried so darn hard, in the end, it just didn't matter. And one thing that was really remarkable about that last fight was the Guillotine Xin spite being held for so long.
Yeah.
I expected it to be used on maybe the Inara or the Terminus when the fight broke out, and then when the Terminus is like, oh, they're going to reanimate here. No, saved right until the end because Vex knew that if they can catch one frontline out when they have a numbers advantage in a sort of 99 to 99% situation, they just win the fight. They just evaporate somebody immediately.
And there were so many moments where it's like, okay, Reanimate's going to come through. I'm just going to go ahead and hold up my sword, counter that,
Sure.
and then ult you immediately so you're dead again.
Who would win? And also, I want to know, this isn't a poll or anything, but I want to know this in chat. Who would win? A big exploding Stigala with the Wrath of 1,000 Suns, the fact that they're unable to die, or one Swordy Boy?
The answer was one Swordy Boy.
There we go.
World Edit. Pulling that one ahead. A lot of damage and a lot that he applied in that game.
Isn't that the most smug face as well? Well, it's just like, you know what's happening.
He knew what was going on.
You know what's going on. It's the Guillotines in, folks. And this was one of the highlight plays for me right at the beginning, is just able to clean up the Grover Storm Avatar. There's this rotation that comes around on through, and Tonus is like, oh, there's Xin here. I probably shouldn't walk in this direction because as soon as World comes back up, don't even need it. Oh, Bomb King as well. Up. There we go.
It was mentioned a couple times throughout the cast that you have, Guillotine going to be able to shred every single front line that stands in your way. And then you have the Genos just being able to kind of pump up your damage. So you're not really losing a whole lot throughout all of this. A lot of the ults, a lot of key moments were built on his back.
And we see a lot of Zins commonly go into Yomi as the talent, which they think really matters. It gives you a lot of long distance poke. You got that big swinging strike. But again, you add the Luminary on top of that. You've still got a lot of damage. And this is a compact map. You're not playing along these long lines of sight quite as much. You have a lot of viability in just throwing out short-range strikes. And even though you might not be shoulder peeking and poking with that long single vertical slash quite as much, you're still getting a lot of viability out of the Xin pick. And this also, to me, shows a lot of World Edit diversifying the champion pool. World Edit at the last LAN event was just the one-trick blaster, right? You play the Drogos, you play the Willow, maybe the Pip, just something with big AoE explosions. This time around, different story, and as we head to Severn Beach, I wonder if we'll see the Xin taken away or if we'll have to see something else come out.
Well, this is going to be Flashpoint's map pick. This is Loser's pick. And this is do or die for both of these teams. You lose this, you are out completely. And for Flashpoint, that's got to feel really bad. Again, knowing you just won the last LAN. The last time we got to see you on the big stage.
Absolutely. And could this be the Moji movie that we're seeing happen right here? Will we finally see
one day
the And Friends reach the battlefield? I love using champion titles. It's like, will we see the Blossom for Ying, or the Wild for Grover, or the Unyielding for Buck? And it just comes to Moji, and we'll just see, will we see And Friends?
See, I like it when I get in a party with my friends, I always put Gormizer and friends.
Aw, that's really sweet of you. That's surprisingly wholesome. Flashpoint's sticking with the double blaster bands. Maybe some gore dancing as well. We'll get it in there. But again, Flashpoint, they're sticking with the double blaster bands. Vex taking away Vivian and Khan. Makoa has been the first pick with Vex a couple of times in a row. Flashpoint, they're going to snap that one away. Or maybe slot that one away.
I'm kind of curious now as to what Vex want to do, because there's a lot, again, when I'm looking at shields, when I'm looking at things, my mind tends to drift towards Leon, but I feel like you want to try and bait a little bit more out of Flashpoint, figure out where they're going.
This is a very Leon-y map. Buck's actually been quite an important part of the last few games. It's actually traded sides, originally picked up by Vex, then Flashpoint. Flashpoint didn't find as much. In fact, both teams that have picked Buck have lost so far in this set, so Vex like this as a pick. I'm not sure it's going to be the one that works out for them. Honestly, I think I prefer to maybe see the Xin come out again here, but that feels more like a pocket last pick depending on your composition, right?
Especially being able to come through. I mean, you can't really run Guillotine Zen if the only thing... Well, I mean, you could still run it, but when they only have Makoa, you start looking towards that Yomi again. You start looking towards those others. I like Furia Buck again. Buck not doing too hot so far in this set, but you get a lot of good healing behind him, some shielding behind him, and he might be able to survive a little bit more.
Flashpoint as well last time around, they were forced into the Grover pick. We know that Grover can work out quite well, but in the face of the amount of damage which Janos brought to the table with that Luminary Talon, I think that Flashpoint taking it here, making sure that Vex can't kind of pull the same trick on them twice, is going to be a good move. And this also sets up Flashpoint quite well to maybe run a triple DPS composition here. They have got a Makoa, they haven't got a quintessential point tank, right? With that in mind, Vex can go heavily into stripping these away now if they want to. They can go for something like the Inara. They're also getting the Bomb King, which is a major Flashpoint power pick.
I love stripping that away. Being able to say Prosper Logic, like, even though they didn't win last game, has been doing work with this Bomb King.
Prosper has just
pull it out.
Prosper has a mean champion pool. Prosper has an excellent Leon, for example, and when you're playing into a Fury, that could be great. It also dissuades the fact that Vex might even look for a triple DPS with Moji here as the final pick, because you've got that point heal with Toot, and you've got that peripheral heal. It's like the same thing as Pip, the same thing as Khan. This is where Flashpoint start to bring in a bit more point contest. So they grab the barracks so they can sit on the objective. They pick up the Xin as well, which dissuades the double Stagala. And actually, the more I see this, the more I want to see the Moji, because what do you want to be able to deal with a Xin? You want some poke and burst, you want a champion which has a similar role to Buck here, and you don't want big health pools where Guillotine can really take advantage of them.
Looking for their last pick. A pretty solid lineup here for Flashpoint, but Vex have equal, maybe not quite better, depending on how this last pick goes for them. But as of right now, I mean, you've got a lot of control on the point from Flashpoint. You've got a lot, some decent healing, but a lot of damage on their side as well. Furia, Buck, Bomb King going to have their work cut out for them, and Vex going to have to decide, do you want to risk the double front line?
Well, it's going to be a Kinessa that is locked in right at the end here. This is not quite what I was expecting. Of all the teams to run the triple DPS, I thought it would be Flashpoint rather than Vex, or maybe grabbing a Fernando instead, but in the end, folks, it's long distance damage, which is the name of the game for Vex here. I still would have liked to see the Moji, but that's just a personal bias at this point, I think. The Kinessa coming into play, do you feel this would be more of an Eagle Eye thing or more of a steady aim?
I feel steady aim, but I'd love to see Eagle Eye.
I'd love to see those headshot swing.
Real quick, which team do you have?
I think I got to root for Vex here.
Well, Vex are looking to try and upset the previous LAN champions, see what they can do with it as of right now, though. We're just going to go ahead and jump into the game and see who can win it all. Casters, take it away.
3 sets deep in console and still no Moji, but we do get the Kinessa.
Yeah, and that's going to be one of those where, you know, you look back at this tape and you say, God, I was a genius and I deserve a raise, or you're going to say, man, I wish I had that one back.
Don't forget to vote for who you think is going to take this game, and really this set, because it does determine who will move on within the lower bracket and who is out for good. And Flashpoint have a lot to prove since they were the winners last time around.
And right now, I feel pretty confident about their lineup. I think the Luminary Genos with the Tinker and Barrack. We saw an iteration of the Barrack for the hair trigger style, and I think that was relatively effective.
Still hair trigger here.
And so they potentially will. And, you know, Luminary with hair trigger is technically the most DPS. It's not technically the most burst per shot. So that's where they're going to have to really work around just their play style here. And that's a pretty good start, I'd say, Gabby.
Oh, I don't know if anyone was expecting that. Welsh Mania making a statement on the Kinessa with the headshot immediately, which does allow Vex to get everybody startled. 45% onto the objective already. A little bit of a throwback, though, onto that sniper.
He pushes up way too high. I mean, I was just about to commend him, and all of a sudden he just commits to the opposite side high ground and gets taken out just like that. I mean, now Lexi Zen goes down because he was there supporting with him. Narc has to push off the objective. What should have been a clear establishment, and it has been objectively from the points system secured, 87%. It just is not as easy of a fight, I think, as they thought. But Welsh Mania is back in action, proving me wrong every step I take, every word I make.
understanding the mistake that he made previously and answering with the double kill, 99% to 100. Vex take point number 1. It is very odd to see a sniper move forward in the way that he did.
Yeah.
I think maybe he got a little too excited by how swift and awesome that shot was, but at least he was able to regroup pretty effectively and didn't allow it to let him tilt or anything.
As a player, when you pick Kinessa, you have on days. Wow, nice hook there from Legacy. This could be the end for Welshmania, and a great void grip as well. But I was just saying, you have on days and off days. When you're having an on day, you feel it immediately. You hit those shots and you say, oh yeah, it's about to be a highlight reel. Start recording. Get OBS open. And I think at this point, he knows that. So that's the best thing you could have for your Kinessa. He doesn't miss wildly. He's hitting pretty much every single shot he takes, and that's exactly what Vexed Gaming wanted to see.
Though Flashpoint are holding fairly effectively right now on the defense, Vex have yet to make too much leeway. Haven't even really had to traverse the high ground just yet. There's one ultimate to take out Narc, which was following on the Inflamed.
I mean, Welsh better be lucky that wasn't going towards him, because he would not have seen it. When you're scoped in, it's very difficult to see through time and space from Genos. So oftentimes snipers are the most vulnerable, especially when they have their eyes on other prey. Storm Avatar, his performance today has led me to believe that he's going to have some good ults throughout the entirety of this round.
We've seen through time and space clip the toes of a Kinessa.
Oh, yeah.
Just to finally be able to take her off of the board. But Flashpoint right now, still continuing with this defense, have a few ultimates available to them with the Dome Shield, the Ancient Rage, the Spite. Good Lad taking out Lexi as well. And Vex are going to have a hard time, I think, pushing past this.
Yeah, I mean, uses the shelf spin because he realizes he got shot at, needs to round the corner fast. That's the way Welshmania is playing. They're respecting him a lot. And until he starts to have a probably really bad run of things for the next, minute to 5 minutes, they're going to continue to give him the respect that he's earned thus far, hitting those crucial early headshots and earning them round 1.
Well, good lines of sight on a couple of the players from Narc, but is it enough? Flashpoint sticking together as they rotate. Lexi caught out, separated from the rest of the team, forced to jump on back, but able to stay alive in the meantime. It's just a bit of a slow. There's one trade back and forth.
And this is the flex that Lexi's in brings to this squad with 10 seconds left. You got to ask, where's the most important damage dealer on the side of Vexed? Some may say Welshmania, but I'm going to say it's Lexi Zen. How he contributes to these fights as a Bomb King is going to be the real decision maker, because he's in the thick of things. Welshmania may not have an angle all the time.
Oh no, though. Good Lad. If he gets zoned in right now, this could be the end for Vexed on this push. Overtime continuing. A nice wall to keep Inara alive, but still low on the HP. Even gets clipped by a turret, and Slapodopoulos falls.
And that's why dead zone doesn't matter as much to Inara, because she wasn't getting healed there. She had just damage reduction. No Furia line of sight. That was just Inara staying alive for 2 swings of a freaking Zen with Luminary. I mean, that is how tanky she is in Earthen Guard. So, best respect to Stoneboard.
And those were pretty awesome shots, though, from Welshmania. We just saw in the
He's
replay.
in awe of his own shots. Look at that. He's like, I can't believe I just did that. Oh, my God.
Is that exactly
Are you
what
serious?
he's saying? Yeah.
I did that, right? Holy crap.
You're really channeling his inner self right now.
I just try to be one with the character.
But I think also the fact that he was able to be so effective on the capture, but then it's much harder for a sniper when you're pushing because you have to constantly reposition yourself, and there are only so many places that a sniper can be effective and safe at the same time. So I see a world where Vex, if he continues this up and Welshmania gets these shots, they could get another capture, but might struggle again on the push. There's it through time and space, right onto the high ground. Doesn't kill anybody just yet. Zoned in Welshmania, attempting to find his target, goes to the low, but Flashpoint loses Good Lad.
And you can just see World Edit maybe having a little bit more success with the Zen today. That's paying off as he transitions that success onto the Buck. Narc finds another. The Inflame was used. And Nick said, these players had said never lose a fight with Inflame. And so far, that has continued to be the case as World Edit picks up yet another.
He doesn't even have to be fast in that. He just saw Legacy that, I'm still recovering a bit.
And again,
I'll go kill him.
Again, he dies too aggressive. I mean, this time maybe he's going to... Maybe it doesn't work out there that way because they do have a chance to 4v5, but you got to say, that's the same mistake 2 times in a row. That's not very, I think, efficient play.
Dome Shield was just used. They lose Ionly Abi after that. A nice hook to bring in Lexi, which resulted in his death. Missed the Spite. Here's the Buck Wild. Just needs a couple more shots onto the Sin, but he has the Billow, all these defense mechanisms and escape routes. But one last shot into the back of the head, and Vexed Gaming are able to secure this objective.
you know, it just shows you how bad of a position Flashpoint are in. Welsh Mania gives them free kills 2 rounds in a row. They still can't do anything on the objective. What does that mean? It means Slopadopoulos is slippity-slopping right now.
Just a tad. Just a tad. Slipping down the slide, but still, Vexed, if they can just keep getting this capture, it doesn't matter if they're struggling a bit on the push. 2 minutes to go, and they made a lot more progress than they did prior. I think just being a bit more is taking initiative on that and recognizing where Flashpoint are grouping, which is very similar to their positioning during the last round, and Legacy eliminated once again.
You know, no 37 or 39-0 for Legacy this time on the Makoa, as Welsh Mania just out of it. Another interesting kind of potential mistake that happened as 1 minute and 30 seconds are left, and it does appear that Flashpoint are almost giving this up at this point. With Storm Avatar's early use of the through time and space in the beginning of the round, caught nobody. So maybe patience on that one. Either way, IGoodLad pressuring out Welsh Mania, but Beam Me Up is going to get him out of the fire, potentially into the frying pan. But Narc finds a kill on the only op B, and Welsh gets a kill on a Prosper Logic.
Bit of flank on the side, but no one died in that scenario. Vex still higher in the numbers of players on the board.
Wow.
And you just wait for the counter to go down. I have all the time in the world, as he is world edit after all, and gets 2 kills to just cap this off for Vex. Vex are 1 point away from taking down the LAN champs of last split.
Welsh is playing fantastically. World Edit playing fantastically. Lexi's in, doing what he needs to do, although the score line, the slash line doesn't look good for him. He's still playing extremely well, in my opinion. This is before the nerfs to Deep Breath and Rapids is saying. So Buck's still at his prime. Will not be and is not in land, but this one still allows him to be as successful as he's being, Gabby. But it's really the Rejuvenate 3 and the Chronos 2 that you have to be looking at for Narc and Slopadopoulos. The healing combined for these two, beating Genos by about 16,000 right now, but it's just the uptime of Inara, the lack of deaths that she's had, that's really being the issue.
Tier 2 Master Riding as well should allow Slopadopoulos to slide onto the point before anybody else. And even a rotation from IOnlyOp B, forced to find some sort of cover on the side, gets healed up luckily, and World Edit finally off of his table and gets him recover, has to jump away because there's just way too much damage in his face. Welsh Mania picks one up onto IGoodLad. Lots of ultimates from the wayside, including Inflame. 2 down for Vex, it's the 1 for 2.
The problem is, you know, there's just absolutely no way for Narc to die. IGoodLad keeps dying first. And that's the problem. Legacy, if you can do it, you might change this whole game for you and your team. And Legacy with a huge hook here, Gabby, takes down the one that was the snowball, the keystone for Vexed Gaming. And now they all fall. You see how important that Fury is.
Prosper Logic off of the back of that, able to get the double kill. That shows it is teamwork, setting up the rest of your players for that sort of moment.
They didn't get the dismount. Inara is so close to this point.
She's here, she's ready, she's under the dome shield, taking damage, but getting healed up. IOnlyOp B is the one running into some trouble right now, but he hasn't even died yet.
Can't shoot Inara, got to kill Narc, got to kill Narc. IGoodLad finds Narc, that's a big one, and he gets into the billow. He's going after Welsh Mania, has beamed me up, and the transporter been used. He's trying to find it out of it, and he's gonna get the beam. No, it won't go off. IGoodLad somehow makes it happen, Gabby, and I think if he can continue this, it's gonna be Flashpoint keeping their dreams alive.
Woo, and they got that comeback mechanic, and boy, do they need it, because it's 99 to 84 right now. Imagine the situation if they didn't have that. Vex, they lose 3, Flashpoint bring it to 2-3 on the scoreboard. And they can take a little bit of a sigh of relief, the double kill for IGoodLad, but still, it's a long battle ahead.
IGoodLad has to get in a better position. I don't care what you have to do. Master riding your booty over there, because Narc dying is the key. Every single time Narc's died, it's given Flashpoint a chance. And with this Inara, with this Furia, with Rejuvenate 3, I don't care how many cauterizes you have, you will not kill her if Furia is constantly healing the Stone Warden.
This is one of those cases where the support is very true to that name and very much the key to the success of the rest of the team. And right now, Prosper Logic able to get that elimination. Let's go ahead and see, how are they able to capitalize? Are they going to push forward and be aggressive because they know they don't have that support right now?
You know what, Gabby? I think that right now, Flashpoint are happy just with a capture. And I don't like this at all. Why? You're running guillotine, right?
This is interesting. Has to use everything out of the book, and right there, still with Kinesis, still taking ticks of damage onto him. Jumps up with the spite, doesn't get anything for it, and then falls back down to the ground.
Maybe he's running Yomi. I mean,
Yeah,
425, 850, but that's with Genos. No, I don't think he is running Yomi. I think this is Guillotine. I don't know. I like the attempt, but you need to land that onto somebody there, and that's a very crucial thing. You may push this in 10 seconds, and you don't have your roll at the beginning of the next round.
All right, so at least I think when you have Yomi and you're planning to get out there and then just get a few swings to kill them both.
That's the
but
key.
he landed in between the two,
Yeah.
which made it really awkward for him to figure out where to turn. I think that's kind of what made him a deer in headlights for a moment.
Right.
But Flashpoint right now, they're making some good progress on this payload. Final tick, Sonara forced to stand right directly in front of it just to stem this moving.
And I don't think you use ults here. I think it's really important that they just continue firing away. It looks like Slapodopoulos is going down. World Edit, the only one here. Nice hook there from Legacy, and a good shell spin to just get out of Danger's way. Flashpoint tie it back up. They use the emote. They feel good, and they've not extended this game any longer than it needs to. They say it's 3-3. Let's go at it and see who comes out on top.
That was just really clean play in those final moments of let me hook everything that they used. It was one after another just to keep Buck off of touching onto the payload. They didn't even need to kill him right away. They knew that would be difficult to do. So just get out of our way for just a little bit so we could finish this.
Yeah. And, you know, again, he is having a difficult situation in tracking down this Kinessa, and he doesn't have the ability, like Guillotine, to just instantly delete her with his ultimate. Just get to the back line. Items is what I want to see. What is iGoodLad itemized into? Is he going into the Master Riding? We have the KDAs up there, and I don't know if we're going to bring it up soon. It's not. He's actually gone into just the Haven, so maybe just trying to be a little bit more survivable. That's huge! Storm Avatar finds Welshmania off the start, Gabby.
That's exactly what you need to happen at the start of that fight. 3 down for Vexed Gaming. It's 3-3. Flashpoint bringing this back a bit. Good lad getting aggressive into that back line. He doesn't even care about who he can see at the moment. He's just keeping himself in this place so he can catch anyone from Vex that tries to get towards that objective.
Incredible. Incredible what I've just seen. And 54% and counting now. Flashpoint are in a beautiful position to take this game. I would not have thought this was how it was going to turn, ladies and gentlemen, but somehow things have started to shift, a seismic shift in the balance of this fight. And Narc, if he goes down again, is going to be in trouble, and he does!
You don't have your support. Who's going to heal you? Legacy with the Ancient Rage swings away at this, and Nara stands behind the wall, but only for a moment's time. A little bit of a round of Duck Duck Goose against this wall, but still one last shot into the face. 99% for Flashpoint. Get another kill. Double kill for your previous LAN MVP. Overtime finishes, and Flashpoint get the victory and keep themselves in this bracket.
And Slapodopoulos gets slippity-slopped on here by the Legacy himself. He does it again on Stone Keep with some beautiful plays, some amazing hooks. But man, that through time and space from Storm Avatar, I talked about it in the beginning. This man's going to hit some good ones, and he certainly showed up.
Sad to say we won't see Slapodopoulos anymore to be able to have that fun with his name. But hey, that was quite a set.
Can we get a rematch and just redo it just so we can maybe hear Slapodopoulos' name
Just a little bit, you know.
All right, no. I'm hearing a strict no.
We already had our cap of those for the day.
Fine, Tyler. All right.
But that play in the end, it was looking really iffy for Flashpoint the way that Vex were playing, but as soon as he started zoning into that, let's get rid of Narc, we don't want to deal with him, then they were a lot stronger, and that Xin right off of the front of that fight in that last round was crucial.
It was a really tale of two halves, so to speak, or tale of two rounds, because the early rounds were so far ahead in the way of Welshmania and the squad effects, but you could tell the small mistakes he was making, a little bit too aggressive, and that started to bite them in, you know, where hopefully they didn't want to be bit, and now it ends up being that they are out of the tournament today.
But who do you think was the MVP of that game? Game number 3 of quite the set indeed. It's your opportunity to vote in Mixer chat. But I also want to know who Desk thought was performing absolutely well in that game. So let's go ahead and send it over to the Desk.
Personally, I think I have to give it immediately to Storm Avatar just because he killed Kinessa at the beginning of that round. I think that gives them the momentum they needed.
For me, it's all about good lad, right? It's the for starters, because we've established at this point that iGoodLad makes me think of a robot dog, and that just makes me happy. but more specifically because the Xin plays, the amount of pressure which they were able to put specifically onto Furia and Kinessa was what really helped turn the tide. We saw the first couple of points go towards the side of Vexed. A lot of unpressured Kinessa. We had Buck playing Kinessa's bodyguard. As Gora said, and you can find on my Twitter now, oh, you don't have enough levels to talk to her. You just get out of here. Just stand in the way of everything.
Really did every single time anyone tried to kill her. It was immediately Buck would just be in your face and be like, Zen, you can't.
No,
get out of here.
No, you're going to bounce you out of here. Like that's what they do, right? They just roll up into ball, cover you in flubber, and bounce you off the screen.
Yeah.
Something like that. But then again, when it all came around to it, iGoodLad was able to find a lot more picks onto specifically the Furia first, and then onto the Kinessa is what I noticed. It's prioritized the healer and then everybody else. And Furia has been such a big power pick throughout the LAN so far. It's great to see Flashpoint figuring out how to dismantle it.
And good lad, you've mentioned him a lot, and he was the MVP overall for that game. And honestly, I would say for the set, with the way things were going, there was a lot he did well, but that last game was just a final mark on it. Between him, and I guess a little bit on the Genos, there was never a point for Welshmania to open up the point the way he did at the very beginning of the game.
And you only really get that opportunity once, which is why, in retrospect, hindsight is 2020, right? Vex have been such aficionados of Leon for a while, and I'm just wondering if maybe that was not a Welsh pick, it's more of a Alexi pick to what I understand, but it would have been maybe nicer to see that kind of turnaround potential that Enlightenment provides you rather than something like the Headhunter, which is very limited to, can I sit here and can I box out with whoever's trying to throw points at me? But ultimately, at the end of the day, again, Flashpoint adapted very well to what they were thrown at throughout the duration of this set, and they might be able to pull themselves back into it. As well as also, you give Legacy the Makoa, or the Legacy a Makoa, and well, we've seen that story before.
The reason he was given MVP, I mean, it was, I think, across with his KDA, is 39-0. He did not die, and he was able to accrue a ton. So you do not want to put Flashpoint in that kind of box. Unfortunately,
that's a big old Makoa.
That's going to be Vex's last game as well.
Will be. They go home now. Well, not today, not quite now, but metaphorically now. They're out of the bracket, folks. That was the first of our elimination games. This is a double elimination format tournament, and Flashpoint do advance, so it'll be interesting to see who they face up against on the lower side of the bracket after we have Onslaught and Elevate face off.
And this is where we always end up seeing some interesting stories. There are some teams now that we know through Paladins, Envy comes to mind, that have made better runs in the bottom bracket, even though it's a shorter
I gotta say, looking at Flashpoint's performance through this set now compared to the last one versus Elevate, I think that Flashpoint being warmed up is going to be the scary factor for me. I think it's a case of they have to get warmed up, they have to get the engine ticking, they have to get running, you know, pour some gasoline on top of it. I don't know how cars work, Gore.
That's okay.
Like
Neither do I, honestly. They're magic. I assume they work a lot like people assume computers work. There's just a little wizard in there.
Is that not how they work?
That's how everything works.
I thought that's what IT's job was, is feeding the wizard.
It's feeding the wizard. That's actually when your computer's gone wrong.
Yeah, that's why you take it to
He's
the
just
shop,
gone
right?
too long without a snack.
And speaking of the snack...
Either way, we've got Flashpoint ready for their interview after that incredible win. So we'll go ahead and throw it down to the interview room and see what they have to say.
Well, 10 counts all around. Seems like everybody can count to 10 in here. Fantastic. We're here with Storm, Avatar, and Legacy. Now, Legacy, first off, you've got no shoes on.
I don't.
And you've got one sock inside out.
Yep.
And you're telling me that was on purpose.
Yep.
I don't believe you. What's the superstition? Are you a superstitious guy? Is that what we did last time to get this run back win?
Did it last LAN by accident.
Makoa is our superstition. Really.
Makoa is our superstition as well, but no, I did it last LAN, so I was like, why not? It worked before, so.
It somehow worked again. iGoodLad, my question, Storm Avatar, my question for you was, how did it feel hitting that through time and space at the end of the match?
That was my third time hitting that shot because the other two times, the Kinessa stands there. I missed twice, but when it really mattered, I hit it. I hit Kinessa and then damaged the other person. It's the best value of that.
That was a pretty great moment. Really set the tone for the last bit of that game. Well, one thing, Legacy, we see you going onto different picks compared to the last time we saw you at LAN. So I just want to know, how are you feeling with diversifying what we're seeing here in your play?
I think my character pool compared to last LAN is much bigger, but I just didn't play good today. Like, I've practiced, like this LAN I wasn't expecting to get to play Makoa, so I was like, I'll just learn everything else. So my character pool is really big now, but like I just didn't do good today. Makoa, I think, was the one game where I did actually like have a good game today. So.
Seemed like a comfort pick for sure. It seemed like it sparked something in you all that backs against the line. We need a big win here on the same map, same champion, and somehow you kicked it into gear. What was it, Storm Avatar, as sometimes the supports are seen as the leaders in the back line, that changed things for you guys in this set and let you have the confidence to come back and win?
In this set, we just every map we went a man down, but we were always winning the last fights. But even though Robbie peeked his head, he got picked by Knessa. We're just like, we just got trolled. It's just bad luck here. We come here to like a winner's mentality, and even if we start losing, we always play to like win at the end. We always start to see what the enemy team is doing wrong. They kept leaving their spots in the far back. We had the Zin to exploit that, and so always throughout the game, seeing in between the matches, in between the captures, we try to see what we can do better. Always make sure everyone knows the game plan. Nobody's confusing right with left, and stuff like that. That's mostly it.
Last question is, this is double elimination compared to the last LAN, very different feel. So what are your thoughts moving on now that it is kind of that last leg? You have to go off of that momentum all the way through.
Yeah, I think double elimination helps us because going into this, we didn't really know what the meta was. It was like, there's loads of good characters. Drogo's is pretty good, should ban him. But we really don't know what's good. So now that there's more games, we can see, this is good, this is working. And we're like really good in that sense because we're good at adapting like mid-set and after sets, and we're really like, we've odd reviewed all the games and things like that, so.
Well, that was a very fun match for us to watch. Congratulations on moving forward within the bracket, and we look forward to seeing what you got for us next.
Thank you.
Thank you.